The man who, just a few months ago, was an ordinary stay-at-home husband has now unexpectedly become a ruthless, cold-blooded assassin. It all started after the mysterious death of his younger sister. The protagonist, once considered useless, decides to become a disaster-class adventurer. He must venture into the same dangerous dungeons that his younger sister once explored, to uncover the truth behind it all. But no matter how brave a weakling is, he's still a weakling. Though he tries to train every day, an ordinary person is still insignificant when facing a monster. In his very first dungeon, he was beaten by a monster to within an inch of his life. As death drew near, he accidentally awakened a unique ability, the power to disassemble anything, from monster corpses to upgrade materials, and even the skills of others. Thanks to a little power-up from the author, he gradually grows stronger. He delves deeper into the mysterious dungeons to find the truth about his sister's death. The story opens with the last recorded image of Xiaoqi. Her eyes suddenly fly open, filled with absolute terror and tension. In the heart of a cold stone cave, a red crystal glows, pulsing like a beating heart, a demonic symbol protected by creatures known as the Ming Feng. The monsters creep closer, preparing to attack her. It lunges forward with incredible and decisive speed. Suddenly, a Ming Feng impales Xiaoqi's body. To her utter shock and disbelief, Xiaoqi coughs up a mouthful of blood in agony. Her body collapses onto the cold ground amidst a horde of monsters. Xiaoqi lies there, struggling to breathe, her gaze fading in the haze of pain. "I'm sorry, big brother." The image of Ulu surfaces in her memory. "I'll wait for you." At the same time, Xiaoqi faces the blood-soaked, gaping jaws of a monster. She thinks to herself, "I don't think I can keep that promise." Meanwhile, in a sprawling city filled with towering skyscrapers, Ulu slowly walks out of a convenience store, a bag of groceries in his hand. Suddenly, someone calls his name, and he quickly turns around at the sound. Qinji greets him warmly. "That's a lot of groceries. Is Xiaoqi coming home today?" Aolu replies cheerfully, "Yeah, she said she'd be back after her A-rank dungeon expedition finished a few days ago." Then he asks, "Are you heading to a dungeon too, Qinji? How's your health been?" The other man replies with a smile, "I'm doing much better now." With that, Qinji raises a hand and says, "All right, I've got to go. I'll drop by for a meal sometime." Ulu immediately replies, "Definitely, I'll be waiting." As Ulu turns to leave, the person next to Qinji lowers his voice to a whisper. "We risk our lives out there and can't even afford meat, while that useless freeloader lives like a king without lifting a finger." The other guy overhears and suddenly recalls, "Oh, right, I think he has a sister in the Seven Stars organization. That's the top organization in your room." Qinji says sternly, "Don't be idiots. Xiaoqi used to live in the slums and nearly starved to death. The one who saved her was Ulu." The guy behind them still looks unconvinced, muttering under his breath, "Yeah, well, we're the ones about to starve to death now." A memory flashes back. Ulu giving bread to Xiaoqi, even though he himself had survived since childhood by scavenging and eating scraps. Hearing this, the other two wave it off dismissively. All right. I get it, but in the end, he's still just a parasite living off his sister. So what's the harm in letting us complain a little? If his sister dies, he'll just go back to being dirt poor anyway." The sun is still up, its light shining down on the apartment where Ulu and Xiaoqi live. Back in the room, he gently sets the groceries on the table. Ulu lets out a weary sigh. He glances at the clock on the wall and thinks to himself, "I went pretty far to get fresh ingredients, so I'm behind schedule now. I need to hurry and start making dinner." He then picks up a knife and begins chopping vegetables. Ulu skillfully prepares each dish, one by one. A full meal is quickly and neatly laid out on the table. He thinks with a hint of pride, "There." He picks up his phone feeling a little worried, but she's still not home. It's currently 7:20 p.m. Ulu guesses to himself, working overtime again? The moonlight shines down. The entire scene is now shrouded in darkness. Ulu is slumped over the table, the food now cold. Suddenly, his phone buzzes and he jolts awake, picking it up and answering without thinking. "Hello?" A voice on the other end responds, "Good evening, this is the Adventurers Association. Are you the relative of Xiaoqi, also known by the alias Zhao Guang of the Seven Stars? Is that correct?" Ulu quietly replies, "Yes, that's right." The flat voice continues, "We regret to inform you that she was killed by a monster in an S-rank dungeon. Her death was confirmed 2 hours ago." The news makes Ulu's eyes widen in shock. For a moment it feels as if he's stopped breathing. Ulu screams into the darkness.
"What? That's impossible!"
A plate falls from the table and shatters. The only sound left in the room is the voice from the phone. We only wanted to inform her family. However, if news of a 7 Stars member's death were to be leaked, it would cause serious complications. Therefore, please keep this matter confidential for the time being. We will send her compensation and benefits within a month. If you have any questions, please contact us. Goodbye. The line goes dead. Ulu is stunned, unable to speak. Sitting in his chair, he's lost in thought, the phone slipping from his hand without him even noticing. Aolu mumbles to himself, Xiaoqi, she's dead? A memory surfaces in his mind, a young Xiaoqi tugging on his sleeve and asking, from now on, can I call you Big Brother? Back then, Ulu had replied, of course you can. A smile flickered across her big bro's lips as Olo asked with concern, you're hurt again? 2-7 casually replied, it's because they were bad-mouthing you. Olo remembered how 2-7 had promised him, I'll be back soon, big bro. She had hugged him playfully and said, so make something delicious and wait for me, okay? Olo had dotingly replied to his little sister, I know, so be careful. Back then, 2-7, full of confidence, had told him, it's just an A-rank dungeon after all. Don't worry, big bro. And at that very moment, he realized something strange. In the conversation just now, 2-7 said it was A-rank, but that other person said it was S-rank. The association usually uses a special system to investigate the cause if something happens in S-rank dungeons, or higher, especially if it involves a member of the 7 Stars. But this time, they bypassed that system and contacted the family directly. They figured out what happened in the S-rank dungeon in just 2 hours. Or perhaps... Olo's eyes lowered slightly. He was lost in thought for a long time, the faint light filtering through the crystal glass, illuminating the picture of the two of them. 5 days later, at the Adventurers Association, Olo stood in a room with Lam Fong. He asked him coolly, Olo, what brings you here today? Lam Fong continued with a serious expression. If this is about Zhao Kuang, we've already spoken on the phone. He was the head of the Min Kong branch of the Adventurers Association. Olo looked straight at the man. He stated seriously, I want to register as an adventurer. Lam Fong froze for a moment at those words. He brought a hand to his forehead with a look of exasperation. Lam Fong tried to remain calm and told him bluntly, Olo, becoming an adventurer means walking hand in hand with death. You don't even have any abilities. You're not qualified. Olo listened in silence as he went on. You're the only family Zhao Kuang had left. I'm certain she would have wanted you to live in peace. According to the Adventurers Association regulations, a relative of an adventurer can become an adventurer, even without abilities. After hearing that, he just said calmly, then I can become an adventurer. Lam Fong was at a loss for words. Finally, he compromised, saying, all right, fine. He said to the secretary behind him, get him registered. The other man replied formally, yes, sir. This surprised Olo a little. He held the man's gaze and said, thank you. Lam Fong didn't forget to add a reminder. If you ever need anything, you're always welcome here. Hearing this, Olo glanced back in acknowledgement. A second later, the automatic steel door slid shut. Lam Fong watched Olo's retreating figure. He couldn't help but feel a little worried. Meanwhile, Olo had arrived at the registration hall. A staff member told him, here is your ID card. Olo replied quietly, thank you, taking the card in his hand. Olo looked at his information. ID, Olo. Gender, male. Age, 21. Ability, none. Rank, E. Olo stared at the card with a determined heart, remembering Lam Fong's words. The boy who was with Zhao Kuang used a special item to escape. When he got out, our unit had already begun preparing a rescue team. They used a special item to check the situation inside the dungeon. But unfortunately, back then he had angrily argued back, 2-7 said it was an A-rank dungeon. The other man frowned, confused. No way. From what I heard, they were sent to a sealed S-rank dungeon. She probably lied so you wouldn't have to worry. Hearing that, Olo was stunned, freezing for a beat. Olo carefully tucked a card into his jacket pocket. He thought to himself, this isn't some noble sacrifice. Olo pulled his hood over his head. He began to walk forward as he silently made a vow. I will find out the truth no matter what. Elsewhere, outside an A-rank dungeon, a group of people was gathered. It was an expedition team. A blond guy said casually, I want to become a frontline adventurer. His teammate immediately started teasing him. Aren't you the guy who starts crying the second he sees a monster corpse? The other guy was at a loss for words. Talk is cheap, you know? The other guy continued. Being in the rear guard is better. You don't have to fight monsters. Let's go. Olo was there too. He stood by, silently listening to their conversation. They all slowly moved into the dungeon. Olo's group sat waiting outside. The blonde guy started to ramble. It's been 35 years since the dungeons appeared. I've been doing this for over 15 and I'm still not used to it. Another person asked in return, You think anyone can just get used to this? Just then someone approached and asked, Are we supposed to wait here? The blonde guy took one look and guessed, Newbie, huh? The other person replied, Yes, I was just assigned to the logistics team, so I don't know what to do. The blonde guy looked at him judgmentally. And you still came? The person next to Blondie patiently explained, We don't go in until they've taken down the gatekeeper beast. Blondie maintained his cold attitude, saying, No need to explain everything here. You'll get it once you're inside. Yes, sir. The purple-haired guy saw this and whispered to the rookie, Don't mind him. He's always like that. Okay. It was then that Blondie noticed Olo. He asked, You're a new face too. Don't tell me you're a rookie as well. He answered flatly, I am. Hearing that, Blondie froze for a second and asked again, For real? The purple-haired guy next to him spoke gently to Olo. If it's your first time, then stick with us. Just do what we do. And no matter what happens, don't... Just then a roar cut him off. They looked in shock toward the source of the sound just now. That desperate scream continued to echo from inside. The man in the green hat heard it and started trembling. What do we do? Should we go in? Model. Hearing this, the blonde guy couldn't help but shout, You'll get eaten alive! Haven't you ever been through rookie training or something? The guy with the glasses standing next to him, sweating bullets, quickly explained, They don't even teach basic stuff like that there. As soon as he finished, the guy in the hat from before quickly added, Something happened at the association this year, so there was no training at all. This statement left the other two speechless. Their faces were filled with worry, while from another side, someone's voice piped up, No wonder you're all so clueless. Olo, however, remained calm, thinking to himself with his arms crossed. I thought I missed the training because I didn't go through the normal process, but it turns out there wasn't any to begin with. Meanwhile, the blonde guy and the other man rambled on. Normally, adventurers refers to combat specialists. Only those at D rank or higher are allowed to fight. Support adventurers are just regular folks, and as E rank adventurers, we're basically just part-timers. If you want to help them... As he was speaking, a loud sound cut him off. You guys over there! Get over here! So the blonde guy could only urge them, Let's go, we've got work to do. Elsewhere, purple smoke rose from the body of a sleeping monster, making the group of men and women extremely uncomfortable. After a moment, the body gradually dissolved, turning into a foul liquid. This sight caused one of the people in the green outfits to be unable to hold it in and throw up. Seeing this, the guy with the slicked back hair got furious and cursed, You bastard! But he was immediately stopped by a firm hand. A girl with platinum blonde hair tied in a bun whispered, He's new, calm down. Then, that person turned to the blonde guy's group and said, You guys have experience, don't you? So please, get a grip. As soon as he finished, he smacked the timid guy and yelled, Don't just stand there spacing out. Get to work. In a corner, he picked up a hammer and grumbled, I didn't even do anything wrong. Why am I getting yelled at? But Olo remained strangely calm. That's disrespectful to the deceased and their family. After hearing the other person argue defensively, I didn't mean to. It's just the first time I've ever seen anything like this. He didn't change his expression. They know that, which is why they're not holding it against you. A moment later, Olo listened to a question from someone working diligently behind him. How do you know all this? You're a rookie too, aren't you? He replied without any emotion. I heard it from someone else. After that, Olo became strangely silent, his gaze lowered. The scene changes as his memories flood back. Xiaoqi sat idly and announced, Hey, a rookie died yesterday. And upon hearing Olo's question, They let rookies participate in that too? She replied, a bit unhappy and worried. It was for training. One rookie overestimated himself and got ambushed. Another support rookie saw the body and threw up. A friend of the one who died had his face pressed close to his arm. He got so angry that he killed that rookie. I tried to stop him, but it was too late. As she finished, Olo immediately turned his head and added, Killing someone just for that is going way too far. Xiaoqi didn't hesitate to share her perspective. I know, but I don't know the whole story. The combat class adventurers often look down on the support class. Back in the present, the blonde guy turned around and ordered, Hey, rookie, stop dawdling. Hearing that, the other guy retorted, You do it. The monster corpse still isn't cleaned up. Meanwhile, the blonde guy casually lifted a container. So you really are a rookie, huh? You were so calm earlier, I thought you were just pretending. Olo just remained silent, his mind full of thoughts. This guy is so annoying. Amidst the dangerous space, a familiar but powerful commanding voice rang out. Listen up. To clear a dungeon, you have to destroy the core. That thing over there. He slowly explained everything one by one. But to destroy the core, you first have to defeat the guardian monster. No matter what kind of monster it is, its body will only hold out for 30 minutes after death. But for a guardian monster, that 30-minute timer only starts after the core is destroyed. The blonde guy, with a serious expression, pushed the cart and said, Monster corpses have no value. But the rookie was full of questions. Why not? Then the man with the glasses, looking very knowledgeable, immediately explained, Because we can't take them out of the dungeon, so of course they have no value. He slowly added, But if you defeat a guardian monster, there's a chance you'll get weapons or equipment. If you're lucky, maybe even a skill book. Sometimes you can even get rare items. The blonde guy and the other man spoke one after another. If you're interested in loot, go ask the main attacker. The dungeon will close 30 minutes after the core is destroyed. Let's go. We'll transport the loot. You guys can go home now. Your pay will be transferred within 3 days. Being on the support team doesn't mean you're safe. If you want to live longer, you should at least get some training in. Hearing the man's words, the rookie complained half-heartedly. If you can run fast, you have a better chance of survival. Give me a break. I thought this job would be easy. After he finished speaking, he and Olo stood silently, watching the other two leave. Meanwhile, Olo's hand clenched tightly. I have to get stronger. 2 days later, a voice called out, So, how was the dungeon? Strange and dangerous, came the concise reply. Lam Fong chuckled. Doesn't the treasure tempt you at all? Hearing this, Olo bowed his head slightly. Nothing is worth trading your life for, he said softly. At that, Lam Fong could only fall silent, glancing at him with a hint of worry in his eyes. You and your little sister really are alike. They finally arrived at a large training ground. Suddenly, Lam Fong spoke up. Olo, I find this very strange. With his brow slightly furrowed, he asked, With Zhao Kuang's fortune, you could live comfortably for the rest of your life, so what's your goal? As the words fell, Olo revealed a bewildered expression. I can't just live idly off Little Seven's fortune forever. I'm guessing you've heard all the rumors, that I'm just a good-for-nothing mooching off my sister. I'm so tired of living with the stares and the whispers behind my back. Lam Fong, on the other hand, was extremely tense. Zhao Kuang's death has been kept under wraps for a while, but sooner or later people will realize you're the sole heir. He stood face to face with Olo, getting closer as he added, It's good that you want to become strong on your own. There's someone I want you to meet. Elsewhere, a man with white hair and a beard, stood with his arms crossed in front of his chest and yelled, Hey! The old man was Charlie List, 37, a trainer at the Min City Explorers Association. He grinned excitedly and called out, That's me, what's up? While Karuto politely introduced the newcomer. This is Charlie, the trainer I found for you. He might seem crude, but he's the strongest person in our branch. Olo, however, was staring in awe. That physique? But Charlie was still beaming. Don't kid with me, I'm just a thug. After saying that, he pushed his face close to Olo's, touching his beard with his hand. You're making me look after this brat? Just then, Karuto gently reminded him. He's Zhao Kuang's older brother. At that, Charlie could only turn away in a huff. All right, I get it, but this will be the last time. After Karuto said, I'm counting on you, he shooed him away without a care. Get lost. Just looking at you makes me sick. Follow me, kid. After a moment, the two stood a standard distance apart. Hey, kid. I'm Olo. I know. Don't interrupt me, brat. In contrast to Charlie's astonished attitude, he continued, So you used an elite explorer's inheritance privilege to come here? Olo, however, was extremely nonchalant. Is there a problem? His brow furrowed slightly, his eyes wide with disbelief. Are you sure you weren't tricked? Do you even know what that privilege means? Olo's eyes were half closed, his head slightly bowed. I know. Explorers are ranked from S to E with 6 tiers. Those who surpass even some S ranks are called 7 stars. Elite explorers receive the highest benefits, and even after death, their families can inherit a portion, but only if the explorer designated an heir, while they were still alive. Usually it just involves inheritance, but there's a rarer part considered the most useless, a chance to become stronger, Charlie now said in a serious tone. If you understand, then make your choice. But Olo still looked clueless. Choose what? As soon as the words left his mouth, the mood between them instantly soured. Charlie let out a weary sigh. Listen carefully. This is very important. There are 3 types of training: attack, defense, and speed. He then began pressing keys on a control panel. You probably can't picture it just from my description, so I'll show you. With that, Charlie rushed forward and kicked a robot into a pile of scrap. This is attack training. He then used his thick, muscular back to block a boxing glove's punch. This is defense training. Finally, Charlie expertly dodged countless beams of blue light. And this is speed training. He then turned back towards him, grinning radiantly. Which type do you want to be? After a moment of silent thought, Olo made a concise decision. Defense. On a beautiful morning in the park, someone was exercising. It was Olo. After a while, he was exhausted and stopped, panting heavily. His face was pale, as if this wasn't exercise but torture. Damn it, I feel so nauseous. I think I'm going to puke. Can this kind of trainer really be any help? Olo then recalled his conversation with Mr. Charlie. Defense? Not bad. You're a smart one. After that incredibly gentle pat on the shoulder, Olo felt like that part of his body wasn't even there anymore. Charlie continued, Most guys your age usually choose attack to protect themselves, or they'll choose speed so they can run and attack at the same time. Suddenly, his cheerful demeanor vanished, replaced by a deadly aura. And that's why every single one of them is dead. Seeing that look on his face and hearing those words sent a chill down Olo's spine. Charlie's expression darkened, and the atmosphere around them fell silent. He then spoke, and hearing him, Olo grew a bit concerned. You can decide on your own training regimen, so focus on physical conditioning. As if realizing something, Olo immediately asked a question. Aren't you going to train me? Charlie laughed out loud and replied, You can't be getting this winded after just a little running. He clapped Olo on the back encouragingly, but Olo keeled over instantly. You need to train harder. He sat slumped on the ground and replied, I understand. Charlie decisively held up 2 fingers and continued, You have 2 months. If you don't reach the minimum level by then, he said sternly, even if you are Zhao Kuang's younger brother, I won't go easy on you. Finishing his flashback, his face was still pale, as if he needed an emergency transfusion of 10 oxygen tanks. Maybe I should run a little more. After that thought, Olo started running again. Day after day, he exercised tirelessly without rest. Right now, Olo was sitting in front of a computer screen, working on something. Then, he clicked the mouse decisively. It turned out Olo was investigating a monster. Dungeon Monster Investigation File. Name, Minfong. Species, Legendary Beast. Rank, SS. Abilities, Wind System, Water Magic, Water Resistance, Mind Control Resistance, Extremely High Physical Defense. Olo looked up at the ceiling, deep in thought. A legendary beast, is this strong? No wonder, little Seven. This is why you tried to stop me from becoming an adventurer and told me to stay away from dungeons, wasn't it? In a flash, he was now buying supplies somewhere. Thanks for your purchase. 2 workers found the amount of meat Olo bought rather unusual and wondered, meat again? Not only that, he goes to the rest station every day. That's a place for the rich, where you can heal injuries and recover from fatigue. He hurried home, ignoring their gossip. Even without any abilities, he's still living the high life. In the following days, Olo persisted with his physical training. Not just running, he also built up his physique by doing pull-ups. Time gradually passed. 1 month later, Olo now had a clear 6-pack, the kind girls go crazy for. Suddenly, someone came looking for him. The man was a bit stunned. Mr. Tan Tree, what's the matter, Olo? You seem to be... It was because his appearance had changed quite a bit. Olo gently wiped his sweat and said, Come in. Tantrai smiled with amusement and said, Looks like you've been training hard lately, huh? I almost didn't recognize you. Suddenly he fell silent, but his eyes were still full of pride. Tantri abruptly asked, Hey, Olo, when is little Seven coming back? Olo put down his teacup and replied, Who knows? According to the association, she's on a mission abroad and won't be back anytime soon. Is that so? Tantri suddenly fell silent. Noticing this, Olo asked, We've known each other for a long time. If you're worried about something, don't hesitate to ask. Tantri didn't hold back any longer and said, You've been shopping a lot more recently, haven't you? It's attracting a lot of attention, you know. Right now, there are people who don't even have a scrap of bread. And what's more, I heard you've been going to the rest station every day." In contrast to his serious expression, Olo seemed much calmer. "Are you worried I'm stealing? As long as little Seven is around, that won't happen." Next, he shared a piece of information that made Olo's expression change. "But I heard something terrible happen to one of the 7 stars." Hearing that, Olo asked back suspiciously, "Where did you hear that?" Tantri answered immediately, "I happened to overhear some A-rank adventurers talking. It seems the association wants to keep it quiet, but someone is investigating it." He suddenly changed the subject, his expression also becoming a little worried. "Tell me the truth. How is little Seven?" He was quiet for a moment, then replied, "If something had happened to little Seven, I wouldn't be able to live so comfortably like this, right?" After Olo's reply, the two of them fell into an awkward silence. Tantri seemed to realize he had misspoken and replied sheepishly, "You're right. You two have always cared for each other more than yourselves. Sorry for asking such a strange question." "It's fine. Thanks for worrying about me." After that, Tantri gave a polite smile and left, while Olo felt a little regretful. "It's already noon. Aren't you staying for lunch?" "No, I've got things to do. Maybe next time." He left, leaving Olo in the silent room. Suddenly, he took out his phone and went to his contacts. There were countless missed calls. Olo called back one of the numbers in his contact list. On the other end of the line was a grim voice that would make your skin crawl. "You finally decided to call me. I have something to ask you. I've called you 45 times in the last 2 months and you didn't pick up once, and now you're calling me? Is it about the 7 stars?" Olo asked seriously. "What do you know?" The person on the other end suddenly burst out laughing, making him so furious that he didn't let the man finish what he wanted to say. "Why don't you ask the damn association? It depends on your attitude." Then the person on the other end suddenly called back, his tone also sounding quite irritated. "Why did you hang up?" Olo replied with a hint of a threat. "If you say anything else weird, I'll go straight to your sister." The person on the other end agreed and revealed the information Olo wanted. "One of the 7 stars is dead. We haven't identified who yet. The association is trying its best to cover this up. It's understandable. Just one of them getting hurt is enough to send shockwaves through the entire country." "Why are you asking me instead of your own sister? Could it be—" The person on the other end seemed to have shrewdly realized something and asked him back. He continued in a dark voice. "Did something happen to little Seven?" Olo didn't answer directly but threatened him back. "I'm going to contact your sister." The person was startled, knowing he had misspoken, and stammered, "If you do that—" He didn't bother saying anything more to Olo and threw his phone in anger. He grumbled, "I was a fool to ever think about setting my sister up with you." On his end, Olo sat silently in the room looking at the person in the photograph behind him, lost in thought. It's chaotic. Someone is investigating Seven's death. Could it be a power struggle? Or were they involved in Seven's death? Later, Olo was at the meeting place with Charlie. He suddenly laughed and teased him. "You've changed so much in the last 2 months. I almost didn't recognize you." Recognizing the complimentary tone in Charlie's words, he also happily asked, "So, does that mean I passed?" He sized Olo up for a moment, then replied, "Yeah, you just barely made it." "All right then, let's get straight to the point," Charlie continued. "I have good news and bad news. The good news is, for now, you only have one type of training." He was a bit puzzled and asked, "What's the bad news?" Charlie put on a menacing look and replied, "Your training is to get beaten to a pulp." The moment he finished speaking, he lunged forward to attack, giving Olo no time to react. A single palm strike from him was so powerful that it sent the kid flying into the wall, shattering it. Charlie looked triumphantly at Olo, who was slumped on the ground, and instructed him, "Remember this power. When you can withstand it, that's when you'll have completed your training." Olo, stunned, got to his feet and asked, "That's it?" "The purpose of all training is to increase your endurance. As long as you don't die, no matter how much you get hit, you'll pull through." Charlie had now become more serious than ever. He continued, "It's the same both inside and outside the dungeon. The one who survives is the strong one. When you're dead, you can't be called strong." Hearing his words of wisdom, Olo listened intently to every single word. After that, Charlie yawned widely, summoned a robot, and gave him an order. "First, try fighting this guy. I'm going to bed. You can dodge, but you can't counterattack." Upon receiving his command, the robot attacked Olo as fast as lightning, but luckily he managed to dodge. Its blows were so powerful they could destroy this entire place. Because of that, Olo was momentarily hesitant, unsure of how to deal with it. Facing such terrifying power, he couldn't accept it, thinking to himself, "Damn it, am I just supposed to keep running away forever?" Olo broke out in a cold sweat and continued his thought. "No, if I do that, this training will be meaningless." Just then, the robot charged at him again. Suddenly, Olo remembered what Charlie had said earlier and realized something. After that, a flash of determination appeared in his eyes, and then, Olo no longer dodged its attacks like before, but switched to defense. "I can't keep dodging forever. I have to endure it all." At the same time, Charlie was standing high above, witnessing everything. He thought proudly, "So you finally get it, huh? With this kind of power, you can train both your speed and your stamina. That's why this simple exercise, defensive training, is often seen as useless." Down below, Olo was still steadfastly enduring the attacks, the robot's relentless barrage. Charlie suddenly thought, but in the end, everyone realizes that defense isn't just about physical strength. Suddenly, his phone rang with a call from someone named Damahan. Seeing the caller's name, he answered irritably with a less than friendly tone. "For the past week, I've only gotten 2 hours of sleep a night. If they make me run one more errand—" Without letting Charlie finish, the person on the other end cut straight to the point in a cold voice. "An S-Rank dungeon has appeared in Tuian village. Most of the surrounding villages have already been swallowed up. It sounds like this is something serious." Elsewhere, Lam Fong was seriously looking over some documents. Just then, someone came to see him. It was Charlie. He walked into the room tiredly and reported, "Kazumi from the 7 Stars has agreed to our terms." Hearing this, Lam Fong praised him. "You're pretty good at persuading him." "Things would have been easier if Zhao Kuang were here," he replied, while a clearly exhausted Charlie sat down in a chair. "Well, can't be helped. We need to handle this huge problem as quickly as possible." He looked up at the ceiling thoughtfully and replied, "There's no way an S-Rank dungeon should be able to spread to other countries. They've been trying their hardest for 2 weeks to contain it. I haven't heard any news since last week." Despite just hearing this, he calmly asked, "When will it be done?" He seemed quite concerned about the Tuian village incident, staring thoughtfully at a newspaper reporting on it, while Charlie answered his previous question, "In 45 days. Suddenly, he looked at Charlie with an indescribable expression. This made Charlie exclaim indignantly, "Who do you think you're glaring at, huh? I want to resolve this quickly too, you know." One of Tuafong's key members was injured and will need at least a month to recover. You can't just replace one of the 7 stars. Furthermore, he chuckled lightly and continued, "It seems there's some internal conflict in the Li family. The children have disappeared. I feel so bad for Li Tuafong. He has to go find his siblings." 45 days later, inside a dungeon, an expedition team was advancing deep into a cave. Olo was also a member of this team. Suddenly, an odd guy standing next to him exclaimed, "Hurry up, the final boss is coming!" After that, they encountered a furry creature that made them hesitate and stop. This creature looked like a rabbit, but had the horn of a rhinoceros. It seemed to be the area boss. When they spotted it, they were incredibly eager for a fight and charged forward without hesitation, ready for battle. True to its name as the area boss, its power was not to be underestimated. The 2 guys next to Olo saw this and exclaimed excitedly, "It's so strong! And he only brought 3 experienced rearguard scouts. Man, I want to fight too!" Just then, a bald guy coldly swung his axe, sending the creature's head flying with a single strike. Another guy joined in the fun, using his sword to wound it. The bald guy, seeing that the danger was gone, happily spoke to his comrades. "All right, let's head back." Everyone there agreed with his idea and started to casually leave, but something seemed off. The people in the group were looking at Olo a little strangely. He noticed this too and was silently on guard. Something was very strange about them. Suddenly, one of them spoke up. "They were really fast." Olo suddenly asked the man beside him, "You knew something, didn't you?" The man replied, a bit flustered, "No. It's just that their attack speed was too fast. It's strange, and I think the number of monsters was a bit low. It's best to be careful." Suddenly, someone clapped Olo on the shoulder. This person had a strangely dark expression and said, "We'll cover the rear. You guys go on ahead." This action made him even more wary. He just replied coldly, "I understand." Olo continued walking with them, his heart filled with anxiety. "We're surrounded. What are they doing?" All of a sudden, a monster appeared before them. It had a rather bizarre shape, looking a bit like a playing card. When the group saw it, they weren't surprised at all, but instead smiled with excitement. They said to each other, "It's here." What a relief. In contrast to the excitement of the others, one man was now so scared he was trembling. slumping to the ground. "What is this?" "That thing." He pointed a finger towards Olo and the other young man, and he yelled, "I know the enemy's trait. I can help you figure it out. It's an invisible monster. We have to sacrifice 2 people to it. Choose them."
I'm useful.
He looked at the man with contempt and said coldly, "An invisible monster. So this is the real reason you guys brought us here." Then Olo recalled a memory with little Seven. In his memory, the little girl was pouting, sprawled out on the sofa whining, "I'm so tired. We ran into an invisible monster today." He went along with it and asked, "What's that?" She lazily replied, "It's a super annoying type of monster. It forces people to vote on who to sacrifice." The monster Olo was facing now seemed quite similar to little Seven's description. It was like a game of roulette. Whether you live or die depends on the number you get. This monster seems to have 2 forms, and its second form looks a lot like a clock. The enemy is invisible until you make a choice, which is why it's called an invisible monster. Olo continued to ask, "So it's toying with people? Is there a countdown?" "Who knows? Everyone who's ever seen it is already dead." Little Seven reached for a glass of orange juice and continued, "It makes people kill each other, but some people actually want that." She stared thoughtfully into her glass as she continued. Olo, curious, kept asking questions. "Does it drop rare items?" He couldn't stop his curiosity and asked another question, while Little Seven was focused on the glass of orange juice in her hand. "What happens if you're chosen as the sacrifice?" She didn't answer Olo, but her expression held an unspeakable contemplation. She was silent for a moment, then replied, "Then you have to kill it." Back in the present, the candle on the monster's head, it began to flare up. At the same time, the number 60 appeared, indicating the time. From the spinning wheel in the center of its body, the images of all 8 members of the expedition team were projected. One of the men suddenly pointed at Olo's image. He smirked at the guy next to him and said, "We can just use those trash bags, Skills." That man also pointed at the image of the young man standing next to Olo and agreed, "Then let's choose these 2. The time displayed on the monster's head finally ran out. This was also the moment when only 2 people, Olo and the other young man, were left with the monster, while the others vanished simultaneously. It flashed a grotesque smile. Then it bared its sharp teeth. It began to transform, roaring in fury. Olo had already drawn his sword and taken a fighting stance while the other guy collapsed, muttering negative words. "This is impossible. There's no way we can win." In contrast to him, Olo was unusually calm. He just asked coldly, "Do you want to die?" The guy trembled and replied, "Look out! Its stats are 3 to 5 times that of the Guardian monster. We can't possibly win!" Suddenly, a force struck the coward directly in the stomach. He had no time to react. It turned out to be Olo. He had sent the guy flying with a single kick. The man skidded across the ground while Olo blocked a blow for him. The monster's power was too great. Olo couldn't do anything alone. The other guy, still not understanding what had happened, sat on the ground calling his name. Olo decisively and powerfully got back on his feet, saying, "If you want to be a sacrifice, then go be one yourself. I will never give up no matter who the opponent is." The monster, now in a frenzy, charged forward to attack him. Over at Tuian village, the situation was also extremely dangerous. Mr. Charlie was on pins and needles. Suddenly, someone approached. It turned out to be Li Chengfeng and the 7 emotions of the Heavenly Fist group. Mr. Charlie was startled and said worriedly, "Chengfeng, this is..." Realizing his questions, he answered immediately, "Lin Yi has been sacrificed." Hearing this, he said hesitantly, "I'm sorry." Chengfeng comforted him. "It's because I wasn't strong enough as a leader." Charlie suddenly asked, "What happened in the dungeon?" Chengfeng's answer immediately stunned him. "It was an invisible monster. We refused to choose a sacrifice. So, Lin Yi volunteered to stay behind, is that it?" He asked again, just to be sure. "What about Lin Yi and the book?" The other person replied, "I've already destroyed it." "That's the safest way," Charlie replied, rubbing his head helplessly. "Honestly, why am I always the one who has to verify these things?" He irritably pulled out a cigarette. "I need to check the progress, regardless of who's carrying it out. I hope you understand. That child of fortune is the greatest threat to humanity." Charlie lit his cigarette and continued. "That precious child used the lives of 4 S-Rank and 17 A-Rank individuals to become a powerful killer." His expression was both serious and a little frightening. "Lin Yi is a powerful kid. If he becomes the child of fortune, I'll have no choice but to take the life of one of the 7 stars." A man standing nearby suddenly said, Captain, it's time. Report to the leader that the highest rank in the dungeon may not be S rank. Chung Feng calmly adjusted his collar, then turned and hesitated before speaking to Charlie. I received this letter. It says that Yao Guang has been resurrected. This news was a huge shock to Charlie. After hearing it, he was practically stunned, unable to believe it. Then, Ulu gritted his teeth. He used his sword to block every blow, protecting Jing An behind him. The monster with razor-sharp teeth suddenly struck hard. He quickly raised his sword to parry the attack, but it was so powerful it pushed him back. He frowned and let out a grunt, managing to block the blow. Ao Lu collapsed to one knee, spitting out a mouthful of blood. The monster attacked again, lunging forward. He jumped to the side, dodging the strike. Leaning on his hand, Ulu thought, the monster's attacks look fierce, but if it really had 3 to 5 times the power of the Guardian boss, I would have never been able to last this long. Then he gritted his teeth and charged toward the monster. There's only one possibility left. Seeing it was still smirking cunningly, he thought resentfully, it's toying with me. Ulu quickly grabbed one of the monster's arms. It flung him into the air. He calculated, this monster's arm can extend freely. The farther it extends, the more vulnerable it becomes. With one arm caught, the monster tried to strike him with its other hand. Ao Lu analyzed. Ever since the battle started, its main body has seemed to remain stationary. He seized the opportunity, letting go and falling from the air. He thought, it can't move? Or is that its weak point? Ulu landed lightly right in front of the monster. He thrust his sword straight into its body, thinking to himself, let's see. His face relaxed in anticipation. This should do it. But the teeth in its mouth grew longer, catching his sword. Ulu was stunned. It bit down hard, shattering the blade. One of the monster's arms wrapped around Ulu's leg. It swung him into the air, then slammed him violently to the ground. The sudden blow left him terrified and in agony. Jing An said fearfully, how are we supposed to defeat a monster like that? Why do we even have to fight? After the heavy slam, Ulu lay motionless. The monster wrapped its arm around his waist and lifted him up to its giant mouth. It opened its mouth, baring its razor-sharp teeth, about to devour him. Still dazed and unable to move, Ulu wondered, am I going to die here? He imagined a dreamscape. A smiling Xiaoqi stood before him, holding out her hand. Brother, let's go home. He tried to reach out his hand, silently calling, Xiaoqi? 4 years ago, Ulu and Xiaoqi stood before a grave. She said, last month, Jiha died in the void, saving Chen Yi. They were a deeply devoted husband and wife. We were afraid Chen Yi wouldn't be able to handle it, so we assigned someone to watch over him, but she stammered. Olu comforted Xiaoqi. This isn't your fault or anyone else's. She replied, I know, but... Xiaoqi wiped her tears as she spoke. When we discovered Chen Yi had committed suicide, I suddenly became terrified. If one day you died, what would I do? He softly called, Xiaoqi. She continued, but then I thought it through. The wind blew hard through the rows of trees, leaves scattering with it. She spoke forcefully. Brother, everything I have was given to me by you. You are my life. If something happened to you, then this world, this life, would have no meaning for me anymore. The young lady said resolutely, I know you want to become an investigator, but unless I'm dead, no matter what you think or what reason you have, I will never agree to it. He froze at her words. Then Ulu reached out and stroked Xiaoqi's head. I understand. Don't worry. I won't go anywhere. She asked worriedly, do you feel wronged? He smiled and replied, how could I? Because you are my life too. Just then, Jing An grabbed his sword and yelled, Ah, monster! I'll fight you! He charged forward and slashed hard at the creature. Ulu, trying to stay conscious, forced his eyes open and weakly spoke. The sword he was holding also broke in half. Jing An trembled. The monster punched him straight in the stomach, causing him to spit out a mouthful of blood as he was sent flying backward. He slammed hard into the stone wall, leaving a crater, and then fell to the ground, his face covered in red blood, unconscious. The monster, enraged, opened its jaws wide and bit down hard on Ulu's arm. Causing a stream of blood to gush out, he screamed in agony. The pain sobered him up somewhat. He used his other hand to try and pry open the monster's mouth, thinking, Xiaoqi's death is still a mystery. I absolutely cannot die. The monster bit down again, this time on his shoulder. Ulu thought with determination, even if I only have one breath left, I won't let myself be torn apart. He narrowed his eyes, glaring at the monster, telling himself, I won't lose. I can't lose! Olu also bit down hard on the monster's arm. I can't die! I can't die! The monster, in pain, was forced to let him go. Olu resolved, I still have to avenge Xiaoqi. He gritted his teeth, bit down hard, and then yanked backward, tearing the arm in two. The monster's arm, which had been holding him in the air, lost its strength and dropped him to the ground. Aolu gritted his teeth, trying to endure the pain. The monster, having lost an arm, began to fade into thin air. Then it completely vanished before his eyes. Aolu panted heavily, wondering, is it dead? Could it be I accidentally bit through its core? He coughed up a large mouthful of blood. Cough, cough. Then Ulu lay down, saying with satisfaction, Is this what they call a life for a life, Xiaoqi? I'm sorry. Suddenly, the wounds on his body began to heal on their own. Ulu sat up, confused, wondering, what's happening? In front of him was a system notification. A system notification, you have received Great Heal. Low version, a special, single-use, passive-type healing item. It has been used automatically. Reading the information, Olo's eyes widened in surprise. Another notification arrived. You have received a skill? Olo reached out and touched the system panel. The system screen displayed a line of text. Your current skill, turning trash into treasure. Olo lay stretched out on his bed, staring at the notification in front of him, lost in thought as he recalled that day in the void. I got this skill. I've been researching it for days, but I haven't made any progress. This dialog box only records what I've received. Other than Great Heal, the other things have no descriptions. I'm still too weak, so I was hoping for a miracle. But in this world, there's no such thing as turning trash into treasure. He sat up, his face full of helplessness. Just then, the phone next to Olo lit up with an incoming call. He answered it immediately. It's unclear what was said on the other end of the line, but it made him reply instantly. Brother Chin, I'm free now. I'll head over right away. Scene change. Qinji appears, smiling brightly and raising a hand to greet Olo. Olo walks up to him and replies, Brother Chin. Qinji then adds, Ji then, have a seat first, a few people aren't here yet. As soon as he sat down, Qinji asked with concern, Hey, has your wound healed yet? Olo smiled and replied, It's much better now. Although he said that, inside he was thinking, Actually, the wound is almost completely healed thanks to a low-level version of Great Heal. I just needed a few days of rest to basically recover. A worried look appeared on Qinzi's face as he confided, There are too many failures in the void. If you really wanted to become a combat investigator, it's best to find some reliable teammates and form a permanent team. You see, all the famous investigators have permanent teams. Hearing him say that, Olo started to speak. But before he could finish, Sister Zhao, who had just appeared, cut him off. Logistics prep is about to start. Right after she spoke, everyone gathered in front of the gate. Qinzi also walked over to join them, turning back to tell him, Let's talk later. First, let's get to work. Stepping through the gate, a lush and dreamlike space appeared before their eyes. The vibrant, poetic scenery made his face show clear surprise mixed with a deep inner fear. Seeing Qinji's unusual expression, Olo asked curiously, Brother Qin, what's wrong? He held his forehead with a serious expression and explained, This is a void with a boss. It's rich and diverse in resources, and the danger level is quite low. It's just that it's not friendly to our logistics work. At all. At the same time, Lin appeared with a gleeful face, holding a purple mushroom and shouting, It's a purple cloud mushroom! As he spoke, some of the purple spores secretly drifted into the air he was breathing. Immediately after, Lin had a violent reaction and threw up right at the base of a tree. Qinzi, standing to the side, saw this and pointed in that direction with a look of helplessness. You see? This place is full of good stuff. It's just that collecting it isn't life-threatening, but it is very troublesome. He placed a hand on Olo's shoulder, speaking with a slightly apologetic look. If I had known it was this kind of place, I wouldn't have called you to come. He replied understandingly, It's okay. I'll just consider it a learning experience. With his seasoned experience, Qinzi added, Not everything here will mess with you. Just follow me and don't touch anything carelessly in this place. The space fell quiet, with light filtering through the canopy. Olo picked up a red mushroom that had two ear-like caps and thought to himself, The things in these voids are truly bizarre. Noticing him holding the mushroom, Qinji immediately reminded him, That one's useless. Just then, Sister Zhao, carrying a sword on her shoulder and hauling spoils behind her, spoke up. The monster's dead. Old Qin, take 2 people and go clean it up. We'll continue gathering here. He replied immediately, Got it. Shinji glanced towards Aylin and Olo and said, Olo, and you too, Aylin, let's head in. When he wasn't paying attention, the mushroom slipped from his hand. Staring at his empty palm, Olo looked surprised. He glanced up, startled, only to see the mushroom was back in its original spot. Seeing Olo spacing out, he urged him, What are you staring at? Let's go. Olo was still confused, thinking to himself, When did I drop it? The monster that Sister Zhao had successfully defeated was thrown forcefully into a clearing. Moving to the next step, she carefully instructed, Old Qin, hurry up and collect the materials. I have to get Old 3 out of here. Qinzi replied succinctly, All right, Sister Zhao. 20 minutes passed quickly, and everyone was still diligently working. At that moment, Olo picked up a carrot and thought, It seems the products in a void are determined by its environment. The previous voids mainly produced minerals. This void mainly produces plants. Seeing him approach with a full crate, Qinzi asked, Is everything all right? We don't have much time left. Olo replied, I'm done collecting on my side. His steady steps were suddenly caught on a small, jutting rock. Due to inertia, tripping over the rock sent Olo falling forward. The full box flew out of his hands and his body sprawled onto the ground. As he fell, one of Olo's hands touched the monster's leg, and a faint blue system light appeared. The monster, which had been lying motionless on the ground, suddenly vanished, to everyone's astonishment. The sudden turn of events also startled him. His eyes wide, Qinji also looked worried and bewildered, thinking, The monster's body wasn't supposed to disappear for another minute. Did I remember the time wrong? He quickly gave an order. Never mind, let's get out of here quickly. Olo, meanwhile, stood to the side, dazedly staring at his empty hands. The moment his feet stepped outside the gate, he hurriedly ran off, saying, Brother Qin, I have something I need to take care of. I'll be going first. Tantri watched Olo's retreating back and replied, All right. When the reward comes through, I'll transfer it to your card. The scene changes to the communal training area. A system notification appears. You have received 2 celestial mushrooms, 1 unread message. He tapped on the system's notification panel with a suspicious look. I didn't get a chance to check earlier. What on earth is this? The system screen changes, displaying different information. You have received 2 celestial mushrooms. Received 1 useless, dried mushroom. Looking at the system screen, Olo looked surprised. So that mushroom was already broken down. A look of disbelief crossed his face as he exclaimed, The monster corpse and the red-black mushroom were both worthless, so that means the turn trash into treasure skill can directly break down worthless junk to get back valuable, useful things. If I'm lucky, who knows, I might even be able to get skills out of it. If I use this skill well, I won't have to rely on anyone to achieve my goals. Olo's face filled with excitement and anticipation mixed with ambition. Suddenly, his pupils contracted as he remembered something. Olo stared thoughtfully at the system panel, contemplating. I'm carrying a treasure, but right now I have no way to protect myself. If someone finds out, I'll definitely become a tool for them. He sat down, staring intently at the system panel. What should I do next? Olo recalled when he got the skill and considered, Right now, I can't take on a void dungeon by myself. Continuing with logistics work will give me more opportunities to come into contact with monster corpses, but the risk of being exposed is huge. To avoid suspicion, I have to act at the exact moment the monster corpse disappears on its own. I won't be as lucky as this time, every time. Suddenly, an idea popped into Olo's head. Right, I could do that, but if I do, I'll definitely have to bother Mr. Tan. Let's do it that way. In the future, if I have the ability and opportunity, I'll definitely repay Mr. Tan in secret. His expression was firm and resolute. The scene shifts to a yellow villa. It exudes luxury and splendor. Inside a quiet room, the figure of Kan-an appears, covered in crisscrossing wounds, lying on a bed. Just then, Thua Fong suddenly walks in, making him ask curiously, Why are you here? His face, as he looked at Kan-an, showed clear displeasure as he demanded, Why did you argue with Dad? Why did you insist on going to the Void Dungeon? Hearing Thua Fong's questioning, he immediately retorted, Can't I go? Isn't it my life? Hearing Kan-an's thoughtless words, spoken without any regard for others, he said helplessly, Is that so? If you want to throw your life away to be stubborn, I'll respect your choice. But if you still have any family in your heart, then take good care of yourself. Being an investigator isn't the only path in life. As he spoke, Thua Fong turned to leave. Suddenly a loud voice made him stop. Wait! The voice came from him, his face dark and his tone resolute. Brother, I've decided to leave the Lee family.
The words that came from Kan-An's mouth were decisive and firm. The next morning, under the light of dawn, Olo was doing pull-ups in a park. He thought to himself, "To get more opportunities to break down monster corpses, I've asked Mr. Tan for help 2 times. Olo recounted them one by one. "First, I asked Mr. Tan to help me create a few fake identities. That way, I can use them interchangeably with my real one, and even if there are slip-ups or moments of carelessness, the danger will be greatly reduced. Second, I asked Mr. Tan to help me buy void dungeons. The output from void dungeons is heavily dependent on the environment inside them. For example, a D-rank void dungeon in a forest environment can yield more than a C-rank one in a desert environment. That's why some investigators choose to sell them. But not many people sell void dungeons, and it's easy to run into sellers who change their minds, so you have to find someone trustworthy." Olo swung down from the pull-up bar, sweat dripping continuously. As he worked out, he muttered, "To do all of this, I need a large and reliable network. Luckily, I have one." While he was concentrating, he suddenly noticed someone standing nearby. His eyes darted over to where the other person was standing. Olo was startled to see Kan-An, with a smile as bright as a flower, watching him. Olo jumped down from the bar. He wiped his sweat while looking at Kan-An, completely puzzled. Kan-An shyly introduced himself. "Hello, I'm Lee Kan-An. We conquered a void dungeon together. You saved my life. Do you remember?" Olo replied, "Ah, I remember." Olo was confused by Kan-An's sudden appearance here. "Do you need something?" he asked nervously. Can I follow you?" He was taken aback by his question and asked blankly, "What?" Kan-An excitedly recounted, "Back in the void dungeon, you clearly knew you were no match for the opponent, but you still refused to give up. I want to become someone like you. So even though I'm not very capable, I'm sure I can be of help to you." Olo looked at him helplessly, at a loss for words. He asked Kan-An seriously, "You were able to find me here. You must have looked into or investigated me." Kan-An explained in a fluster, I just wanted to find you. I didn't mean to offend you," Olo said bluntly. "I'm just a powerless person with nothing of value for you to follow. Please leave." After speaking, he turned his back and walked away, ignoring him. The boy stood behind him, reaching out his hand as if to say something. He recalled the scene in the void dungeon and thought to himself, "To be precise, he saved me too. I guess we don't owe each other anything, but I don't like his type, always so willing to just give up." Thinking this, Olo glanced back at him and warned, "Don't follow me, and don't come looking for me again." Kan-An tried to call out, "I haven't finished," but Olo had already bolted. He watched Olo's retreating figure, his heart filled with determination. I won't give up." At the entrance to the void lair, Tan-Tree reported the information Olo had asked him to find. "I went around and asked. It seems no one has been selling void lairs recently." When he asked why, the man lit a cigarette and said, "I'm not sure either. All I know is that the rules for how void lairs appear have changed. It took me a lot of effort to find this information." After hearing the news, he grew curious. Weren't the rules for how void lairs appear already set in stone? Tan-Tree said nonchalantly, "Is anything ever set in stone forever? If this news is true, I don't know if it's a good or bad thing for humanity." He was about to ask more, but he suddenly glanced to the side. With an exhausted face, Kan-An, who had been standing there for who knows how long, was waving at Olo. Tan-Tree wondered, "Who is that kid? He's been following you for half a month now. A stalker?" Faced with his question, he didn't know how to answer. He put a hand to his forehead, exasperated, explaining how they were once on Team 1x0, and somehow he's been stuck with him ever since. Tan-Tree laughed teasingly. "Seems like he's really into you." With that, Olo walked over to Kan-An and asked, "All right, spit it out. What's your real reason for following me all this time? And stop using that 'I want to follow you' excuse to fool people." The boy explained, flustered, "I'm not trying to fool you. I really do want to follow you. You're so strong." Olo thought blankly, "I didn't even know I was that strong." He pointed at his own eyes and said seriously, "Is there something wrong with your eyes? Let me repeat myself. I'm just a normal logistics guy." Olo leaned in, staring straight at him. "You don't look like a normal person at all. There are plenty of people who would be happy to play house with you. Please stop wasting my time." But even after Olo's harsh words, he refused to give up. He continued to plead, "I'm serious.
I've never seen anyone in a situation with such a clear power difference, who was basically guaranteed to die, still fight back with everything they had. Kan-on clenched his fists, his voice full of resolve. I want to become someone like you. Olo was completely shocked by his words. Huh? Kan-on continued trying to convince him. I know I have issues with both my personality and my abilities. Other people often say I'm not even a fraction as good as my older brother, but I don't want to live my whole life like this. He began to think about Kan-on's brother. His brother? Curious about Olo's expression, Kan-on had no idea what he was thinking. Suddenly, he remembered. No way. His older brother couldn't possibly be. Olo recalled a time when Tutat had shown him a photo. Big brother, look at this. This is a new picture we just took. So cool, right? At the time, he was cooking, so he only gave it a quick glance. Olo asked, a picture of the 7 stars? She replied excitedly, Yep, Fisher always wants to take pictures. This time, since everyone was around, we took one. Olo unconsciously recalled the people in the photo and immediately asked Kan-on, Is your older brother Li Thuafong? He replied calmly, Yeah. Olo's face was clearly deep in thought. I heard a long time ago that Li Thuafong had a younger brother, but I never expected it to be him. How on earth does the Li family raise their children? 2 brothers with completely opposite personalities. With that thought, he immediately rejected Kan-on's request. Mr. Li, I'd love to grant your wish, but I just want to live peacefully as a normal person. I'm not taking on any disciples, and I don't need your help. After being bluntly rejected by Olo, he was about to say more, but before he could, Tantri waved from a distance, urging him on. Olo, time to work. He immediately replied, Coming. Before leaving, he said politely, Goodbye, Mr. Li, and turned away, leaving Kan-on standing there watching him go. After the group finished dealing with a giant white octopus, one member wondered, How are we supposed to get samples from this thing? Another sighed, Yeah, and I'm in a hurry to get home for my daughter's birthday. Seizing the opportunity, Olo smiled and said, There's not much left here. You guys go on ahead. I'll take care of the rest. A team member clapped him on the shoulder gratefully. Thanks, brother. I'll treat you to a meal next time. He smiled back politely. Once everyone had left, Olo knelt down and began to use his skill. Come on, the last few decompositions were all just normal materials. Hopefully I can get something good this time. He touched the octopus's giant tentacle and activated his skill. The monster slowly began to disappear as the system announced the items he had collected. You have received 3 dried octopus tentacles. You have received 1 incomplete octopus skin. You have received 1 bronze-grade iron bone. Note, this skill can be used to enhance physical strength. Olo was immediately drawn to this notification. He smiled with satisfaction. This skill, if I combine it with a defensive art to cultivate my physical strength, I could definitely break through to a whole new level. Suddenly, there were footsteps outside the cave entrance. Along with a probing voice, What's going on here? Olo's heart skipped a beat, afraid that his skill had been discovered. He whipped his head around, his eyes filled with fear. It was a team member. He had no idea how long he'd been standing at the cave entrance. He asked Olo, The time isn't up yet. Where did the monster go? He frowned, his eyes filled with suspicion as he looked at him, asking probingly, What were you doing? He looked anxiously at the man, trying to think of an answer to his question. On high alert, Olo gripped the knife behind his back. He feigned surprise, asking, What? Hasn't the monster's corpse been gone for a while now? The other man held up his watch, his face angry. Kid, do you think I'm an idiot? I remember the time, he yelled, ordering Olo, Hurry up, don't try to stall for time anymore. His expression darkened. Olo worriedly thought, What excuse can I possibly give for the monster disappearing so early? I wonder if he'll believe me. Even if he does now, so what? Olo watched as the man menacingly drew a knife and walked towards him. He thought to himself, Looks like there's no convincing him. Olo forced a smile, trying to keep his expression gentle to diffuse the situation. I really don't know anything. I just got here. The cave is about to close. Let's get outside first. The other man roared, punching Olo hard in the face. Do you think I'm an idiot? Olo was punched so hard his mouth started bleeding. As he slumped to the ground, the guy twirled the knife in his hand, glaring at Olo. Let me tell you something. 10 minutes ago, I saw the monster die with my own 2 eyes. He crouched down, a threatening smirk on his face. Last chance. If you don't tell me the truth. Before he could finish his sentence, he cried out in pain. The man had been suddenly stabbed in the stomach by Olo. His face was filled with disbelief. Before the man could speak again, Olo immediately struck him on the neck. When he was lying motionless on the ground, Olo slowly stood up. He pulled the knife from the man's stomach, his face filled with murderous intent, his eyes ice cold. "I gave you a chance to stop." He turned on his heel and left. The man on the ground stared after him, tears streaming down his face. Deep within his eyes was absolute terror. The man watched Olo's retreating figure. His eyes slowly closed. So the legend was true. His two eyes shut completely, never to open again. A moment later, in a restroom, bloody hands were being scrubbed furiously at a sink. Olo was silently washing his hands. He suddenly glanced up at his reflection in the mirror. The Olo in the mirror was smiling a horrifying grin, its voice mocking, "Murderer? Murderer." A second later, the mirror shattered. Olo, enraged, had punched it to pieces. He lowered his head slightly, muttering, "Murderer." Olo let the water wash away all the traces, speaking his thoughts aloud. In this world, the law has become fragile. Murder is now just a common and obvious crime. He calmly dried his hands. "If I have to kill, I'll kill. I won't use any excuse to justify murder." Olo paused for a moment, then he threw the hand towel away. His expression was resolute. "No one can stand in my way." 1 month later. Olo was pulling a crystal from a dimensional gate as usual. A man with well-defined muscles. I smiled and waved at him. "Olo, you're a bit late this time." "We thought you got stuck inside." He smiled calmly and made up an excuse. "I took a little tumble, so it took some time." Another person laughed, teasing him. "You should be more careful. If you got hurt so badly you couldn't make it back, what would we do?" The man from before spoke up again. "Olo, could you do me a favor and take the items we've collected to the investigators?" He continued. "Their people are waiting at the tent up front." Olo gave a gentle smile and agreed without hesitation. "No problem." As Olo pulled the cart away, a chubby guy asked with suspicion, "Boss, are you just letting him go by himself? We haven't even checked the count yet." The man wasn't concerned. He explained, "Don't worry, you guys are new so you don't know. Olo has a reputation for being a good guy." Someone else also chimed in, "No matter what you ask him to help with, Olo is always willing, and he's very honest. He's never skimmed anything off the top. Everyone in our logistics department wants to work with him." The man said this while smacking the guy next to him on the head, warning him, "Now that you know how valuable he is, stop pushing him around all the time. Even a saint has his limits." The chubby guy rubbed his head where he'd been hit and pouted. What limits could he possibly have? He's a total softie. However, I heard he's Zhao Kuang's older brother. Hearing this, the chubby guy was stunned. "Zhao Kuang? No way." They watched Olo's retreating back, the chubby guy's voice filled with disbelief. If he's Zhao Kuang's brother, how could he be doing such a difficult and grueling job? For such low pay? Someone else agreed. "I don't believe it either. That's right. Zhao Kuang hasn't been seen for a long time. I wonder if something happened to him." Later, Olo had just bought some food and was on his way home. Olo closed his eyes, exasperated. He let out a long sigh. Olo spoke. "How long are you planning on following me?" Can-an, who was hiding nearby, panicked when he heard that. He peeked his head out, looking around. "I was hiding so well this time. How could I have been discovered? Who's following him?" Olo had already appeared beside Can-an. He suddenly clapped a hand on his shoulder. "What are you looking at? I'm talking to you." Can-an was so frightened that he yelped and jumped, slamming his head into the wall right next to them. Olo watched Can-an sitting on the ground, clutching his head, a big question mark forming in his mind. With guts like these, he dares to follow people? Can-an asked awkwardly. How did you find me?" Olo put his hands on his hips, his expression serious. "Do you think you're being clever, young Master Lai? You have seriously disrupted my life." In a stern tone, Wu Lu said, "I'm seriously warning you. If you keep harassing me, I can't guarantee I won't do something to you." Jing-an grew even more timid. "Can you really not give me one more chance?" He thought to himself, "It feels like my courage is about to run out. Am I just supposed to trudge home all alone?" Wu Lu paid no attention to his words, walking straight past Jing-an. He followed behind Wu Lu and stammered out a proposal. I've recently discovered that I still have some value. I can definitely help you." Wu Lu's tone was scornful. "How can you help me?" "Sorry, but right now I don't see any value in you whatsoever." Jing-an clenched his fists, mustering all his courage. I can help you sell things." Hearing this, Wu Lu was alarmed. His pupils constricted. He whipped his head around, his face incredibly grim. "So, you say you admire me and respect me, but what you were really doing was stalking me, investigating me, huh?" Jing-an waved his hands in a panic, shaking his head repeatedly in denial. I only found out by accident. I just know you're planning to sell a few things, that's all." Li Jing-an clenched his fists and asserted confidently, "Sir, I have my sources, but I won't pry into things I shouldn't. I can definitely help you." Wu Lu was lost in thought, considering the offer. Although Li Jing-an himself isn't powerful, his status is more than enough to make up for it. If I sell them myself, moving too much at once will attract unwanted attention. Maybe I should consider working with him. Wu Lu looked up and started to speak. "You!" Suddenly, a loud explosion erupted, making them both jump. Jing-an looked toward the source of the sound. "Isn't this supposed to be a safe zone? How could an explosion happen here?" On the rooftop of a nearby building, two hazy figures appeared in a flash. When Jing-an saw one of the men's faces, he screamed in horror, "Brother! Brother Z!" He and Thuafong were floating in the air, facing one another. Ez grinned smugly and said to Thuafong, "A 7 stars heavenly fist wielder. I didn't expect to catch such a big fish." Thuafong didn't reply, simply firing a shockwave straight at Z. He quickly tilted his head to dodge, but Thuafong's razor-sharp attack still sliced off a few strands of his hair. Still wanting to play around, he let out a taunt. "Ooh, striking so soon? Not going to exchange a few words first? Don't you want to know who I am, where I come from, or what makes me so special?" Thuafong replied indifferently. Z ignored him and rattled on, introducing himself. "Oh, I'm the first villain to make an appearance, you know. This is a privilege I had to fight tooth and nail for. Can't you just play along with me a little?" "I'm not interested in any of it," Thuafong stated. He channeled his power, causing energy to gather in his palm. He pulled out a sword and grasped the hilt, saying, "Perhaps." He coldly pointed the sword's tip at Z and continued, "Once you're dead, then I'll cooperate with you." On the other side, Z also conjured a fireball and pretended to stop Thuafong. "Whoa now, let's not be like that. Even though I'm the villain..." He gathered his power, making the fireball grow larger and larger. "Do we really have to fight?" Without another word, Heavenly Fist Thuafong charged forward to attack Z. Ez blew lightly, and the fireball shot from his hand, flying forward. Thuafong put his strength into a slash at the fireball. The orb's power was nothing to scoff at. Sword and fireball collided, creating a massive explosion in midair. Suddenly, Thuafong's blade sliced through the smoke, stabbing straight for Z. He calmly stopped the blade with 2 fingers, looking arrogant. He teased, "My, so aggressive. As expected of a Heavenly Fist. You don't leave bad guys much room to breathe, do you?" Thuafong took advantage of the opening, suddenly thrusting another sword at Z's face with lightning speed. In that split second, Z jerked back, successfully dodging the treacherous strike. His hand let go of the first blade and Thuafong swiftly reclaimed it. Z's interest was piqued. Wiping a trickle of blood from his face, he said, "So, the Heavenly Fist is a dual wielder." "New information has been updated. How delightful." Thuafong gave him an arrogant look and said with a sarcastic tone, "Is that so? Congratulations." Z grew even more excited at this. He laughed heartily. "Ha! What am I going to do? I'm suddenly having even more fun." The two resumed their clash as Jing-an and Wu Lu watched from below. Jing-an panicked and started to run. Seeing this, Wu Lu grabbed his shoulder, stopping him. "What are you doing?" he asked. He snapped, "Let go of me! I have to go to my big brother!" Wu Lu, finding his behavior completely baffling, frowned and questioned him. "And then what? Bravely charge in just to be a bigger burden to him?" He advised Jing-an, "If you really care about him, protecting yourself is the best thing you can do for him." Then he looked up at Thuafong and Z. He wondered to himself, to think he can fight on even footing with the strongest of the 7 stars, Li Thuafong. Just who is this man in the white cloak? As he thought this, he quickly pulled out his phone and took a picture of Z. Beside him, Jing-an kept arguing back, "I know the smartest thing to do is to hide quietly and wait for the outcome. But are we just supposed to stand by and watch?" Wu Lu paid him no mind and quickly turned to leave. Jing-an called out anxiously, "Hey, where are you going?" He gave a brief reply, "To do what needs to be done." A while later, the two were back in Wu Lu's room. He turned back and said to Jing-an, "I'll consider your earlier proposal. I'll contact you when I have my conclusion. Goodbye," he said hurriedly. "Hey, wait!" But Olo paid him no mind and slammed the door shut, hitting Kan-an right in the face with a painful thud. He slumped to the ground, clutching his nose and crying out in pain. Ow, that hurts. I really thought I'd be able to go in too. Inside the room, Oh-Lo was uploading an image of Z to his computer to search for information on him. As the data upload reached 100%, his computer screen displayed a fight scene between him and Thua. Oh-Lo focused on analyzing the video for clues. Suddenly, his eyes widened as if he had discovered something. He saw a mysterious object, shaped like a cat wearing a vest, appear during Z and Thua's fight. His lips moved as he mumbled, "This is..." Oh-Lo immediately picked up the phone and called Tran Mak. He sent the image of the object to him and asked him to identify it. "Hello? Help me look up what this thing in the picture is." Half an hour later, the phone rang. Oh-Lo answered and immediately asked, "Did you find anything yet?" Tran Mak burst out laughing. "Ha! If I didn't find anything, why would I be calling you?" Oh-Lo said, annoyed. "Tran Mak, I don't have time for your nonsense right now." Tran Mak, excited, shot back, "You lucky bastard! That picture belongs to A-Rank investigator Hin Nhi. He was a huge cat lover, so he used the cat he raised as his emblem. But he revealed that last August, Hin Nhi died." Oh-Lo was shocked. Died? He thought to himself, to use the word died now to describe an investigator's passing can only mean one thing. Tran Mak continued rattling on over the phone. "Yeah, he wasn't killed in action inside a void hole. He died in the forest near the entrance of an A-Rank void hole. His death was incredibly brutal, and they still haven't found out who was responsible." Suddenly, he asked curiously, "Oh-Lo, where did you see this picture?" Suspicious, Oh-Lo asked back, "Why are you asking?" He immediately warned him, "Oh-Lo, no matter where you saw it, stay away from anyone carrying this mark. If I'm not mistaken, this symbol means trophy." Oh-Lo slowly walked towards the window, phone in hand. "Trophy? What do you mean?" The person on the other end of the line yelled. "Are you really not getting it, or are you just playing dumb?" Approaching the balcony, he opened the door and stepped out, looking over the surrounding battlefield. Oh-Lo thought to himself. He ran. On the other end of the line, Tran Mak told him, "The mark of a person becoming a trophy. For someone else, what else could it possibly mean?" Oh-Lo asked him, "Do you have any leads on them?" On his end, Tran Mak sat comfortably on his sofa and replied, "Of course I do. Just beg me and I'll tell you." Without hesitation, Oh-Lo replied, "I'm begging you." Tran Mak became serious. He said to Oh-Lo, "Stealing someone else's symbol as a trophy, that's not funny at all. Right now, from what I know, there's only one person who belongs to the excavator." Tran Mak continued to talk about this mysterious, masked person. This person is extremely mysterious. Even the leader of the excavator can't keep tabs on him. The only piece of information on him is that he has an alias Z. Suddenly, Oh-Lo said something from his end that surprised him. "The excavator? That crazy organization?" Surprised, Tran Mak tapped something on his phone. "You know about the excavator too?" Oh-Lo explained to him, "Xiao-Qi mentioned them before." Tran Mak continued talking about the organization. "Oh, is that so? So you already know. The excavator is a transnational organization, but its members are extremely varied. The important thing is, even though they're like a bunch of lunatics, they're surprisingly united." Hearing this, Oh-Lo fell silent. Noticing this, Tran Mak asked, "Hey, you're not planning on investigating them, are you? Are you out of your mind? You think you still have someone protecting you like before?" Oh-Lo began to speak. "You know something. How much? Don't lie, Tran Mak." Tran Mak began to explain the situation. The story about Kiki has already spread among certain groups. It probably won't be long before regular people find out too. Oh-Lo asked seriously, "Where did you hear this?" Across from Tran Mak, a mysterious red-haired woman placed a black card on the table. Tran Mak gave the red-haired woman an OK signal. He continued speaking to Oh-Lo on the phone. "The Datong Commerce Guild. Don't get me wrong, even though the guild deals in information, they wouldn't go so far as to sell this kind of news. I just heard the rumors. And I pried it out of their chairman's mouth myself." Oh-Lo continued his request. "And him? I already know." Tran Mak asked him to keep investigating and gathering information on the people who seize these trophies. "But don't let it put you in danger, okay?" Tran Mak immediately agreed with him. "All right, so what's your next move?" Oh-Lo looked at the many photos of Xiao-Qi plastered on his wall while talking to Tran Mak. "When the news about Xiao-Qi gets out, I'll move." Tran Mak said, "Seeing you so calm about it actually puts my mind at ease." Tran Mak continued, "But who asked you?" Before he could finish, Olo bluntly hung up on him. His hand reached out to touch one of Xiaoqi's photos as a thought crossed his mind. I've been prepared for this ever since I learned from Mr. Tan that the news of Kiki's death might get out. The fact that the Investigators Association managed to keep it a secret for this long was really unexpected. Olo held her photo and gazed at it. It's a good thing they didn't turn you into a commodity, otherwise. Later, in a room, Olo was training with the robots. Suddenly, a robot attacked him from the right. He spotted it, but Olo still took the hit. Unable to block in time, two more immediately rushed him, forcing Olo to back away. Just as one of them was about to punch him square in the face, it froze. Jack Lee walked in from the doorway. He clapped and praised Olo. Not bad, your moves are much more graceful than before. You wiped the sweat from your face and walked over to Charlie. I have to thank you for your guidance, sir. Don't thank me. It's not like I've taught you all that much. He continued. Besides, you haven't been here that many times. Charlie pointed a finger at the two robots he had just fought. Normally, someone with your physique, even with talent, couldn't possibly deal with them in such a short amount of time. Olo looked at the two robots and thought to himself, it seems the physical enhancement from the system is pretty noticeable. Charlie looked over at him. Don't worry. I'm not going to ask how you got so strong so quickly. I'm just curious why you came here today. He continued. And don't tell me you just came to train. I actually used my brain when I came out today. Hearing this, Olo looked at him without saying anything, and Charlie turned his back. If you don't want to talk, I'll talk. That kid, Li Chengfeng, almost caused a huge disaster. He sat down on a step. What are you standing there for? Sit down. As he sat down, he asked Charlie, what's this about Li Chengfeng? He nearly destroyed more than half of Mingkong City. Olo's face was filled with surprise. Charlie told him, unexpected, right? That kid looks like a block of ice, but once he gets going, he doesn't give a damn about the consequences. You saw the fight between him and the man in the white cloak, didn't you? Olo replied, yes, I did. Charlie lit a cigarette as he explained, the man in the white cloak is very strong, but dealing with him should have been easy for Li Chengfeng. I don't know what that guy did to provoke him. He almost went berserk. He continued, Zhao Guang must have told you that Li Chengfeng is the strongest of the 7 stars, but that's only on the condition that there are no restrictions. Charlie held the cigarette in his hand and gave him a bright smile. Let me tell you a little secret. Li Chengfeng is the only one of the 7 stars who has a restriction placed on him. That kid, if that restriction is removed, he becomes a true killing machine. Olo thought to himself, so that's how it is. An image of Chengfeng appeared in his mind. Olo thought, Xiaoqi once said the 7 stars are ranked by combat power. The strongest should be Tianshu. But she said Li Chengfeng was the strongest. Olo turned to him and asked, why are you telling me these things? Charlie's face showed clear surprise. Huh? Didn't you come here because you wanted to hear about this stuff? No, that's not it, Olo denied. Charlie then asked him, so the man in the white cloak is your real target? Olo frowned at him. Yes, I want to know his identity. Charlie said, all right then. First, give me a convincing reason. Olo clenched his fist. I don't believe that Xiaoqi was sacrificed during the cave exploration. Sir, you must have known for a long time, right? He replied, yeah. He then asked, is that reason enough? Charlie said, it's enough. He stood up abruptly. You kid! I was originally going to use the Li Chengfeng situation to scare you away. Why can't you just learn when to quit? Olo hung his head low. Teacher Charlie, he said, you have plenty of ways to make me shut up. Charlie stared at him intently. I can tell you, but once you know, there's no turning back, and the path you're about to walk has a 99% chance of being a path to your death. It also goes against Zhao Guang's wishes. Even so, you still want to know? The man in the white cloak comes from a new organization we have no information on called the Saints. Then he suddenly said something that stunned Olo. The 7 stars are about to recruit a new member. Charlie held a lighter, preparing to smoke. Beside him, Olo asked nonchalantly, is the 7 stars sudden recruitment because of the Saints? Smoke billowed out. He asked lightly, the Saints' origins are a mystery, but their objective is very clear. What do you think? Olo looked at him and answered with a question. Are they targeting the investigators or just the 7 stars? A bright smile appeared on Charlie's face. Is there a difference? If they want to eliminate all the investigators, they'll inevitably have to confront the 7 stars. Conversely, if they take out the 7 stars, the remaining investigators will be easy for them to control. They were talking amongst themselves. Olo looked up at him and said, so we don't know anything about their background, and yet we know their names. Charlie then asked, Have you ever read any of those brain-dead novels? They're just like the villains in those kinds of novels. Extremely arrogant. They're just like the villains in those kinds of novels. Extremely arrogant. Olo keenly observed, "Is it like those evil cults that praise inaction?" Charlie casually replied, "Perhaps. After all, this world isn't lacking anything. Especially not a shortage of brain-dead fools." Olo paused for a moment, then asked, "Charlie, about Zhao Guang. Have the masters chosen someone yet?" Charlie replied, "I thought you would question us, asking if it was necessary to find someone new to replace Zhao Guang so quickly, even with the threat from the saint." Suddenly, an idea struck him. Olo wondered to himself, "Master, do you really think I'm that clueless?" He looked at Olo in surprise. "You're the one obsessed with my little sister. How would I know if you wouldn't go crazy over it?" He stood up, scowling, and said, "To me, little Seven is first and foremost herself. Only after that is she my sister and the Zhao Guang of the 7 stars. Seeing this, Charlie smiled and praised him. "As expected. Of my student. Even if you're obsessed with your sister, you're still more normal than that guy next to me who's obsessed with his little brother." He thoughtfully looked at his cigarette. "The 7 stars are our country's strongest arrow and shield. Now that the situation is becoming more chaotic, we must maintain domestic stability and the stability of the 7 stars. Therefore, I'm sorry, Olo." After hearing Charlie say this, his face turned pale with alarm. Olo couldn't believe it. "Could it be that the masters want to—" He sighed softly. "I'm sorry. This is the best solution we have right now." "You couldn't hold it in, could you? Even if I hadn't asked today, you would have told me this anyway, right?" Charlie admitted. "That's right." Olo, furious, realized the hidden truth. Once the news of Little Seven's death is announced, it will definitely cause a national panic. "But you people can't hide this any longer!" Olo clenched his fists angrily. "So choosing a new person actually means finding someone to completely become Little Seven. That way, in the eyes of the outside world, Zhao Guang 77 is completely fine. The news of her sacrifice is just a rumor." Olo angrily stormed off, leaving Charlie standing there in a daze. "Your plan is perfect." Charlie called out, "Stop, Olo! The investigation tournament has been moved up. We've received intel that many countries are planning to cooperate against us." As he spoke, Olo's steps gradually slowed to a halt. He looked back at Charlie with a cold gaze. "You people never intended to ask for my permission from the start. Now you're using a righteous cause to pressure me. So don't give me that look like you want me to understand you." After saying that, Olo just walked away. Charlie could only scratch his head helplessly, not knowing what to do. "I already said it. I'm not suited for this." After a while, in the vast mountain forest, Olo stopped. He said to himself, "This is the place." He slowly moved forward. "For now, I can't go to the Investigation Association." Crossing the mountains, Olo looked at his map as he walked. "My self-training skills haven't improved much. For now, this is all I can do." He was a little worried. "I spent so much money to buy this information, I hope it's worth it." Olo continued on his way, and a magic circle appeared in front of him. Seeing this, Olo couldn't help but admire. The Datong Merchant Guild really is powerful. They could even find a desolate place like this. He quickly stepped inside. A cool cave appeared. Below his feet was a large lake. Olo picked up a stone from the ground and threw it hard towards the lake's surface. Suddenly, a large fish leaped out of the water, baring its teeth and catching the stone. A look of joy flashed across Olo's face. He thought to himself, "My luck isn't half bad. I was planning to train and conquer the dungeon at the same time, but it looks like that's not happening today." With that, he bent his knees. Olo leaped gracefully from stone to stone, moving forward. Along his path, the fish suddenly jumped out, aggressively preparing to snap at him. Unafraid, he grabbed the fish's jaw, confronting it. Olo spun around and completed a powerful throw, slamming the fish straight back into the water. Landing on a rock, he thought with some annoyance. "This is the first time in my life I've found fish to be this annoying." Olo continued to move forward. Thousands of fish rushed forward, scrambling with their mouths wide open, trying to bite him. One fish with its mouth agape lunged in front of Olo. He didn't flinch, but gave it a powerful punch in retaliation. Finally, Olo set foot on the ground by the lake. Looking at the thousands of large fish in the water, he let out a sigh of relief. Luckily, this is an E-rank dungeon with no amphibious monsters. Otherwise, with these numbers, I might not be able to handle them right now. Just as he finished speaking, a whole school of fish leaped up in front of him at the same time. Then they all grew 4 limbs. They charged onto the shore, mouths wide open, ready to attack him. Olo frowned in annoyance and muttered, "You guys are really pushing it." The two sides clashed in a brawl. From a distance, only a plume of white smoke could be seen rising. Olo plopped down on the ground. Looking at the defeated fish in front of him, he murmured, "If they had pulled me into the water just now, my body definitely wouldn't have been left in one piece." With that, he touched the fish and began to absorb them. The system displayed a series of notifications. You have obtained two-legged fish meat. You have obtained two-legged fish scales. Notably, there was one notification that read, "You have obtained a two-legged fish pearl." Olo picked up the item and examined its shape. He said scornfully, "I heard that pearls created by underwater monsters have a significant skin-beautifying effect, but would anyone really dare to use something so disgusting?" With everything settled, he continued his journey, mumbling to himself as he walked, "A whole pile of fish, and I only got 2 pearls. I guess they still have some value, but that's about what I expected. Even bosses have low drop rates for good loot, let alone these small mobs." Just then, he walked up to a lake. In the middle of it was a butterfly. Olo saw it and wondered, "Is this butterfly the boss?" He pondered for a moment, analyzing. Butterfly-type bosses have very high damage. A large portion of their scale powder can cause hallucinations. A few are even more terrifying because their powder contains a potent toxin. Then, holding the knife in his hand, Olo decisively threw it. Best to lure it to the rocks first. The butterfly was hit by the knife. Green blood flowed from its body. Small rays of light appeared in the lake, and the water began to recede. The butterfly fell to the ground, and only then did Olo get a clear look. The roots of the flower the butterfly had been perched on were wrapped around a piece of jade. Olo pulled out his knife and aimed decisively at the flower. Could it be that this butterfly is just a boss in name only, and that school of fish is the real boss? A knife throw hit the jade, shattering it. Olo landed softly. "My luck isn't too bad today." He bent down and touched the butterfly on the ground. "If this wasn't just a pushover boss, I definitely wouldn't have been able to get away today." However, just then, Olo's eyes suddenly widened in shock. The next morning, Olo was out for his morning run when he ran into Tan-Tree. Tan-Tree stood in front of him, one hand in his pocket. He waved with the other, smiling as he called out to him, "Olo." Olo was surprised to see him here. He walked over and asked, "Tan, what brings you here? Is something wrong?" Tan-Tree crossed his arms, smiled, and asked back, "Can't I come see you if nothing's wrong?" He immediately replied, "Of course you can." Tan-Tree ignored that and cheerfully slapped him on the shoulder, saying, "Not bad. You're looking more and more fit. You asked me to help find a reliable team before. Do you still need one?" Hearing this, Olo smiled excitedly and said, "Yes, I do. Thanks a lot, Tan." Tan-Tree smiled and replied, "Don't mention it. I'll send you their contact info later." While they were happily chatting, he suddenly turned serious and asked, "But why are you collecting those voids and boss corpses for?" Olo fell silent, thinking. To get more channels for processing monster corpses, Olo had asked Tan-Tree to help ask around if anyone was selling voids and boss corpses, but the rules regarding voids had changed. So right now, no one is selling voids. Tan-Tree raised an eyebrow and asked, "Look, I'm putting my all into this for you. Be straight with me. Does any of this have to do with Chi-Ki?" Hearing him say that, Olo wondered, "Tan, have you heard something?" When Olo asked, Tan-Tree sighed. He thought back to the other day when everyone was gossiping and said, "Yeah, a lot of people are saying that Chi-Ki is done for. Chi-Ki is too important. And on top of that, the recent drastic rule changes for the voids have a lot of people worried. Many are surrounding the association demanding an explanation." Hearing Tan-Tree say this, Olo smiled to reassure him. "Don't worry, Tan. The association will come forward soon to deny the rumors. As for Little Cheese Job, that will be over soon too. When she gets back, you and sister-in-law should come over for dinner, okay?" Hearing him say that, Tan-Tree didn't press the issue. "All right then. I won't ask anymore. By the way, where have you been lately?" Olo answered honestly. "Secret training." He smiled, not telling Tan-Tree that the place he was training was inside a void. When Tan-Tree heard this, he playfully punched him in the chest and smiled. "No wonder you're looking better and better. Anyway, I have things to do, so I'll get going." Olo smiled back. "See you later, Tan." And with that, Tan-Tree turned and left. As soon as Tan-Tree was gone, Olo's face darkened, his eyes turning cold as he wondered, "If I were a little stronger, could I go and take back what belongs to Little Chi?" The scene changes. He has now returned to his residential area. As he neared his front door, he found Kan-an sitting on the ground waiting for him. When Kan-an saw Olo had returned, he excitedly stood up and said loudly, "You're back!" Olo calmly kept his hands in his pockets and asked, "How long have you been waiting?" Beaming, Kan-an replied, "Not that long, only a little over 10 days. Hearing this, Olo said helplessly, "You're really something else." Then Olo opened the door and went inside. As Kan-an stepped through the doorway, he asked nervously, "Can I come in?" Olo paid him no mind and kept walking, saying, "You can also close the door and leave." Kan-an heard him agree to let him in the house. He beamed again and asked excitedly, "Big bro, does this mean you'll let me follow you?" Seeing Kan-an so excited and using such a familiar term, Olo wondered, "Are you this friendly with everyone?" Olo put the key on the table, turned to look at Kan-an and said, "I've thought carefully about your previous offer, Lee Kan-an. If by joining me you just mean, accompanying me into the voids, then I'm afraid I'll have to refuse." Hearing this, Kan-an lowered his head and stammered, Olo continued, "I'm not as strong as you think. If you don't realize that, then there's nothing more for us to talk about." Kan-an hurriedly asked, "Then what are you thinking?" Olo crossed his arms and said calmly, "I don't need a little brother. I just need a reliable partner." Hearing that, Kan-an asked, puzzled, "A partner? How?" Olo began to explain, "I need you to help me with long-term sales of some items. We'll split all profits 70-30, you get the 30%. I don't care how you handle the operations. There's just one condition. Don't let anyone know those items are connected to me." After listening, Kan-an said with interest, "Deal. I'm pretty good when it comes to business." Olo let out a sigh of relief and said, "If you need it, I can create a training plan for you, but I doubt you're lacking in that area. After all, you have a 7-star brother, don't you?" Suddenly, Kan-an moved in close to Olo, blushing and smiling as he said, "I need it. I am lacking." Olo immediately pushed his face away and said, "All right, that's settled for now. I have some other things to attend to, so I won't keep you any longer." Olo asked for Kan-an's contact information. "Let's exchange contacts. We'll talk more later." After giving his number, Kan-an left, beaming. "Boss, I'll be waiting for your call." And 7 days later, Olo was standing by the road, looking at a map. The void location data provided by the Datong Merchant Guild is getting more and more remote. After checking the map, Olo drove into the forest. This time, he had bought information on 3 E-rank void locations from the Datong Merchant Guild. These 3 locations were not only remote, but also far from each other. Voids in good locations are valuable, but it's hard to find buyers. Plus, with the change in the void rules, the Datong Merchant Guild has also reduced the number of voids it's selling. Olo slung his backpack on, got out of the car, and said, "I asked around before I left, but not even the Datong Merchant Guild could give me an answer. Hopefully I'll get some good news from Lee Kan-an's side." As Olo was walking into the forest, he saw a void gate materialize. Green snakes shot out of it, attacking him. He immediately swung his sword. He sliced the snake's head clean off its body. The snake died instantly, collapsing to the ground. Olo looked at the dead snake and wondered, why are there snakes here? He thought to himself, animals are supposed to be afraid of voids. Ever since the voids appeared, no animal has ever dared to get near one, let alone harm someone right at the gate. He thought in alarm, if this is also caused by the change in the void rules, humanity's situation is going to get much worse. I have to hurry. Olo quickly stepped through the void gate. Inside was a vast bamboo forest. Olo advanced slowly. The structure of this void is very similar to the real world, but it seems the flow of time here is separate. Suddenly, a bamboo shoot shot up from the ground, hitting Olo in the back. Surprised, he lost his balance and fell forward. Huh? Snakes were rushing out from all around to attack him, and Olo was in a battle-ready stance. He immediately sliced a snake's head off its body, then grabbed the head. He threw it at the bamboo shoot that had attacked him earlier. After that, Olo turned and fled, with snakes and bamboo shoots chasing after him. The number of monsters was increasing. I can't keep getting tied up with them. While running, he suddenly stopped. Olo looked back and saw that the monsters had stopped attacking him, and he wondered, did I get out of their attack range? Olo turned and continued on his way. What a shame. I lost quite a few salvage materials that time. As he was walking, he suddenly saw a long-haired man standing and reading a book. He was surprised, but quickly got into a defensive stance. A humanoid monster. Why is there a humanoid monster in an E-rank void? Olo mused grimly. Humanoid monsters are the most special type of monster to have appeared since the voids first emerged. Fewer than 100 people have ever encountered a humanoid monster. Or to be more precise, everyone else who has encountered one is already dead. While he was lost in thought, the humanoid monster noticed him. He asked curiously, "Have we met somewhere before?" Olo stared at the humanoid monster engrossed in the book before him, his mind racing with conflicting thoughts. What does he mean, met me? There's no hint display. It's not a question-and-answer type monster. Could this be an undiscovered or newly emerged mechanic? He recalled, feeling a little anxious. I remember Xiao-Qi telling me about a type of humanoid monster that, when encountered, triggers a forced question-and-answer session. The monster's power is determined by the interrogated person's answer. If you answer incorrectly, the monster's power skyrockets. If you answer correctly, its power is weakened. He suddenly spoke, interrupting Olo's train of thought. Oh, well, I can't seem to recall. The humanoid monster cheerfully expressed his desire, using magic to conjure images of 4 movies. Then he made his request. I've seen all 4 of these movies, but lately I've been wanting to watch one. Help me decide which one is better. He was utterly baffled. He had never encountered a situation like this before. What on earth does this monster want? He has no intention of attacking, and I can't see his attribute bar. Olo calculated. Right now, I can barely manage to solo E-rank dungeons against this type of monster. I don't stand a chance. What should I do? Should I give it a try? In contrast to his apprehension, the monster was only interested in the movies. This one is pretty good. That one's good too. After a moment's thought, Olo offered the humanoid monster a solution. Why not watch all of them? He replied with his reason. Good things must be savored slowly. Hearing that, Olo asked him what genre he liked. The humanoid monster cheerfully stated its preferences. I like everything. You could only fall silent in the face of such a frustrating answer. After that, Olo suggested they just roll the dice. His face showed confusion when he heard the word dice. You held the dice in your hand, tried to stay calm, and continued, Since you like everything and can't decide, let's let the dice decide. A humanoid monster thought that was reasonable and agreed, using this method makes sense. How do you use this? Olo thought to himself, I don't have any information on him. I definitely can't beat him in a fight. The best thing to do right now is to just play along. After getting the humanoid monster's approval, you threw the dice. They landed on the ground showing the number 3. He exclaimed, Wow, what great luck. This is the one I wanted to see the most. Olo just said to himself, That's right, they're all the ones you wanted to see the most. The humanoid monster picked up the book again, a gentle smile on its face. You immediately backed away defensively, afraid of an attack, but it was surprised by your action. The humanoid monster asked blankly, What's wrong? To avoid suspicion, Olo quickly made an excuse and changed the subject. Nothing. I was just bitten by an insect. What are you doing? He replied, I'm looking for a gift for you. You asked in surprise, What? The humanoid monster flipped through its book, happily choosing a gift for you. What would be a suitable gift, I wonder? He took a page and decided, This one. The page was torn out and flew upwards in the direction the humanoid monster released it. He expressed his sincere thanks. Thank you for helping me. This gift is for you. A piece of paper slowly flew closer, then transformed into a watch. He seemed very pleased. There are still good humans after all. But he didn't believe it. After giving the gift, the humanoid monster left through a portal, waving goodbye before it went. I hope we can meet again later. It left Olo all alone. He was a little worried. So strange. A monster in a cave that even knows how to give gifts. The system notification panel appeared. Congratulations, you have received a watch. Note 1. After wearing this watch, you can turn the crown to check your stats. Number 2. Gain 1 death immunity. Active skill. After use, the watch will be destroyed. Your face showed apprehension. Based on its appearance, this is definitely the most dangerous type of humanoid monster. But its every word and action made it seem so pure and naive. And to give away such rare items so easily, this isn't normal. So what kind of being is it, really? Elsewhere, in the capital city of Tanduong, at the arena, Tranmak let out a long yawn, looking obviously sleepy. He complained, This is all just garbage. Why do I have to come here and suffer like this? Tranmak checked his phone and was a little surprised. Oh man, I'm about to get an earful. On his phone screen, he saw 13 missed calls from Olo. Tranmak immediately called back, surprised. Calling me over and over like this. That's not like you at all, Olo. On the other end, he quickly asked, "Where are you?" He answered succinctly, "The arena, watching some noobs fight each other." Oh Lo asked for a favor. "There's something I want to ask you. Do you know anything about humanoid monsters in caves?" Tran Mak was very surprised. "A humanoid monster? You ran into one?" You urged him to get to the point. Tran Mak, stop messing around. He immediately defended himself. "I'm not messing around, you're just asking the wrong person. Humanoid monsters are very rare. To date, only a little over 100 cases have ever been recorded." Oh Lo immediately understood the problem. "Because it's not certain, right?" On the other end, Tran Mak agreed, "That's right. Even for people who frequently conquer dungeons, like the 7 Stars, encounters with humanoid monsters are still extremely rare. Information about them is scarce. In the dungeon documents I know of, there's nothing clear. A dungeon tome is an information drop from some caves that records data related to dungeons. It's extremely rare. Dungeon tomes are a type of rule-based information item. The data recorded in them is absolute truth. They're the most sought-after drop for humanity." He was silent for a moment, then you recounted what had just happened. "Today, I met a humanoid monster that looked very dangerous, but it had almost no attack power." Hearing this, he warned, "Oh God, you didn't kill it, did you?" Oh Lo asked more clearly, "Is there a problem?" Tran Mak continued, "If I'm not mistaken, you must have met the Great Benefactor. You were puzzled when you heard this title. The Great Benefactor?" On the other end, he continued to provide more information. "Yeah, a very strange humanoid monster. It's not like other monsters. It doesn't show any basic stats, so no one knows its name. But it gives extremely rare items to everyone it meets. 5 years ago, someone ran into it and received an item that could stop time for 3 seconds. Oh Lo pressed further, then its information should have been made public. But to maximize the benefits. So why can't I find any information related to it?" Before he could answer, Tran Mak was interrupted by a noise from below. Seeing that he had stopped talking mid-sentence, Oh Lo asked, "What's wrong?" He answered curtly, sounding a bit annoyed. "The noobs are causing a ruckus. I really don't get what they're thinking. This contestant selection is so important, but to do it in such a childish way." Hearing that, he could already tell what was going on Tran Mak's end and immediately guessed, "Contestants for the investigator exam, huh?" He replied, "Oh, you know?" Oh Lo picked up his watch and, while starting to wind it, continued to ask, "Who's in charge of this?" The system's notification board appeared with his information. Oh Lo, age 21, male, level 37D. Health, 2,931. Attack, 1,121. Magic, 269. Defense, 2,250. Agility, 341. He stared at the notification board, thinking to himself, displaying data like a standard online game. What are these stats? On the other end of the line, Tran Mak continued, "It's unclear. I don't even understand why they called me here. The 7 Stars are already there, so why do they still need me to stand guard?" Oh Lo wondered. "The 7 Stars are there too? Are all of them here?" He looked down at the stands and replied, "No, it's just Fisher and Back." Thean Kobak was all smiles, beaming like a flower in bloom, while Kai-Young Fisher next to him had a dark expression and was extremely tense. Noticing the situation, Tran Mak found it amusing, but he also really sympathized. "Ha ha, Fisher's about to explode. But thinking about having to choose people from this bunch of amateurs, I want to explode too." He looked at the injured person below being tended to by rescue workers and decided to end the call. "Something's come up. Can't talk anymore. I have to go stop Fisher. He's about to lose control." Right after that, Tran Mak hung up the phone and turned to leave. Then he suddenly remembered that he forgot to mention the reason for not publicizing information about the Great Benefactor was the worry that the investigators would mistake them for someone else. But then, Tran Mak felt it wasn't that important, so he just kept walking. It'll probably be fine. At the Qingyang City Investigators Association headquarters, the lights were shining brightly. In a corner of the room, Neep Hai, Charlie, and Fisher were gathered together. The old man was on the phone. "All right, I'll send it to you later. I'm hanging up now, I have something to do." After hanging up, Charlie turned to the old man. "Are you done dawdling yet?" The president of the Investigators Association, Neep Hai, saw this and replied very calmly, "It's only been a moment. You can't wait?" He complained. "You call that a moment? You said you had something important and called us here, but you've made us wait for nearly 2 hours. Fisher's got it better. Being naturally late like this saves him so much trouble." Hearing this, Fisher, who was right beside him, got angry and yelled, explaining, "Damn it, Charlie! Were you deaf just now? I already said I was late because I was busy." Hearing this, he quickly played dumb and changed the subject. Old man spit it out. "What is it?" Nyep Hai calmly explained, I called you two here today for two matters. First, Fisher, I need you to go train the selected candidates. Second, Charlie, there's something you need to go confirm. Both of them replied in unison, I refuse! I'm not doing it! Nyep Hai's face showed a bit of confusion as he demanded, Give me a reason. With an arrogant look, he sneered, The people you guys chose are greener than cabbages in a field, and you want me to train them? Aren't you worried I'll train them into a bunch of useless trash? Even if they become trash, it's still better than letting them lose miserably in the arena. He turned to ask Charlie, And you? Charlie also gave his reason. No time, no energy. I want to go home. Let me take a vacation. Suddenly, a notification appeared on his phone, catching Nyep Hai's attention. Afterwards, he ignored it and continued with his demands. The time is set for 3 days from now. I've already informed Tran Phi to coordinate with you. Hearing this, Charlie became extremely irritated. Old man, are you even listening to what I'm saying? I said I want to take a vacation. Nyep Hai didn't back down either, stating his position clearly. I'm not discussing this with you two. This is an order. Fisher, completely unconcerned, turned and started to leave. An order? Then have Tianshu order me himself. He sighed at his attitude. Fisher's temperament is really... Before he could finish, the person beside him said sarcastically, Old man, give it a rest. You people pick a whole bunch of broken goods, but then you make him clean up the mess. The fact that he didn't curse you out right on the spot shows he still has some respect for you. Charlie continued, I'm very curious. Are you guys blind, or do you have a bunch of other unavoidable reasons? Nyep Hai calmly asked in return, I'm also very curious. Who did you just give the great benefactor's information to? Seeing this, Charlie relented. Fine, I'll go. The old man warned, This matter must rely on your intuition and abilities, Charlie. You will bring me a good result, won't you? The white-haired trainer's face grew more tense. He just remained silent. The next morning, at a training ground, Lo was practicing when Kan-an appeared. He saw him sitting on the ground, panting heavily after a run. He immediately remarked, Have you never trained before? Kan-an lay down, taking one exhausted breath after another. I've been jogging every day recently, Lo asked emotionlessly. And how many steps have you run? He pointed to himself and replied, Just a few thousand steps. He then advised, If you keep going on like this, I suggest you give up sooner rather than later. Even if you don't become an investigator, you still have a good future that ordinary people can only dream of. Kan-an helped the man up and explained seriously, Boss, it's not that I'm lazy. It's just, I had a serious illness when I was a child, and my health hasn't been great ever since. He continued worriedly, Boss, I'm not making excuses. Lo just asked, Is there no way to cure it completely? Kan-an sat up, panting as he explained his condition. I've tried everything. My family has even invited investigators with healing abilities many times. The person beside him suggested, What about the Void Cave? Then he thought to himself, The Void Cave holds countless rare treasures. Surely there must be something that can restore one's health. He lowered his head, then shook it. Success in the Void Cave depends entirely on luck. Many powerful nobles also yearn for such things. Even if someone had one, if they had any sense, they wouldn't let others know about it. Lo was surprised. None of them are willing to trade? Kan-an grabbed a water bottle from the table. I don't know if anyone is willing to trade with me, but there is one strange fellow who is. Hearing this, he was a little surprised. Strange? Could it be? He mentioned a person. Have you ever heard of the one called the Great Benefactor? Hearing this name, Lo's expression changed, but he quickly pretended he didn't know. Never heard of him. Is he special? Kan-an recounted. Well, I heard that Tianshu of the Seven Stars once met him. For some reason, Tianshu didn't attack the Great Benefactor right away, but actually talked with him. Tianshu's current weapon was a gift from the Great Benefactor. Lo feigned surprise. There's a creature that kind? He didn't suspect a thing. That's right. Otherwise, why would they call him the Great Benefactor? Later, some people who met the Great Benefactor learned that he not only gives away precious treasures for free, but also makes fair trades with others. Hearing this, he immediately remembered the link Charlie had sent him. He told me to show this to you, but don't let anyone else see it, okay? Also, the link expires in 2 minutes, so watch it quickly. He thought to himself, A few days ago I asked Charlie for files on the Great Benefactor, but there was no mention of being able to make fair trades. Was it because that part couldn't be recorded, or was it deliberately hidden from me? As for what Tran Mak said about being afraid of mistaking the person, there was no explanation for that either. Lai Kan-an noticed Olo was a bit distracted and asked, "Boss, what are you thinking about?" He immediately changed the subject. "Nothing. Lai Kan-an, if it's all right, I'd like to borrow your villa for a while." He readily agreed. "No problem. Use it as you like." Kan-an was curious. "But, boss, are you just going to train by yourself?" Olo grunted in response and turned to leave. "Mm-hmm." He silently calculated. Right now, most combat-related resources are in the hands of the Investigators Association and various other organizations. I don't want to be indebted to the association, and I don't want to join any other organization. As for buying them with money, unless I have no other choice, I don't want to touch the things Little Seven left behind. Half a month later, at the apartment building, Olo was walking down the hallway when something suddenly caught his attention. Olo entered his apartment. He carefully scanned his surroundings. An arrow grazed Olo's face, leaving a scratch, and embedded itself in the wall. He called out the name of the person sitting in the chair. Olo's face showed his annoyance. "Is this how the 7 Stars pays a visit?" On the other side, the man immediately shot back with a sarcastic remark. "You're 7-7's useless older brother, huh?" Seeing the item Fisher was holding, he yelled, "Give that back to me!" The man just smirked and continued to taunt him. "Oh, did I make you mad?" Then Fisher slowly stood up, his voice filled with disgust. "What right do you have to be angry?" Olo faced him directly and warned, "I'll say it again. Give it back to me." Fisher didn't back down. "And what if I don't?" Immediately, he raised his fist to punch him. Fisher easily blocked it, sneering, "All bark and no bite. Useless. You're completely useless." Olo was stunned. He grabbed him by the throat and shoved him hard against the wall. With the item in his hand, Fisher yelled, "You've never once mourned 7-7. What right do you have to be her brother? What right do you have to take this back?" But an image of Little Seven flooded his mind. Her face was adorable as she said, "Big bro, I don't want a birthday party this year. Let's just stay home. Just the 2 of us, okay?" The memory vanished. Olo's face was a mask of pure rage, his jaw clenched tight. With all his might, he violently threw off the arm holding his neck. Olo swiftly turned the tables, going from defense to offense, attacking Fisher. His attack was decisive, but the man dodged it perfectly. Suddenly, Fisher's eyes shot open, his pupils shrinking as he let out a cry of pain. The agony contorted his expression. Olo had landed a vicious kick to his lower abdomen. Fueled by rage, he grabbed Fisher's hair, his other hand clenched into a fist, raised high, ready to strike again. But before Olo's punch could land, it was caught. With his sharp reflexes, Fisher had anticipated his next move. A moment later, he quickly brought up his leg, blocking Olo's kick. During the confrontation, Fisher slipped up while defending himself, and the photo fell from his hand. Olo, one hand still clenched in fury, asked him, "Who the hell are you? What right do you have to question whether I'm worthy of being 77's older brother?" Olo's clenched fist opened, letting a few strands of golden hair fall out. With a dark expression, he said, "Get out of my house." Fisher's face was a mask of contempt. "I've seen you before. You were as skinny as a twig, completely out of breath after climbing just a few flights of stairs." As he spoke, an image from the past flooded Fisher's mind, the figure of a small, frail person struggling to climb the stairs. Back then, he had been floating outside, observing Olo. He had been clearly surprised. "This is 77's brother? He's so weak. If the power went out every day, coming home might just kill him from exhaustion." Back to the present. Fisher, filled with rage, roared, "Who the hell do you think you are? Do you only learn to cry after someone's already dead? She's dead and only now you decide to get stronger? Do you have any idea what people are saying about her out there? They're calling her an idiot. They say you must have had some dirt on her, otherwise, why would she take care of a useless bum like you?" Hearing this, Olo stood frozen as if his soul had left his body, offering no resistance. Fisher grabbed him by the collar, continuing his questioning. "You ask me what right I have to question you? From the moment she joined 17, I fought beside her, explored voids with her. We faced life and death together, side by side. So you tell me, do I have the right to question you? Go on, say something." But Olo remained silent in his sorrow. Fisher let him go, and Olo's body crumpled to the ground, completely drained of strength. With a heavy expression, he turned away and continued, "For all these years, I was always by her side. I was only absent once, just one single time." Fisher looked at the photos of Little Seven on the wall, his heart filled with regret and self-blame. "If I had been there then, 77 would have been fine. Even if something happened, I would have died before she did, so why? Why wasn't I there that one time? His face contorted in anguish as he gritted his teeth in regret. Hearing Fisher's story, Olo asked, "Then why weren't you there?" Hearing the question, he turned back to Olo and answered, 77 always used to say her brother treated her so well, that in the whole world, no one was better to her than her brother. I'm just very curious. Did 77 know your heart was so cold? His face darkened with every word. Olo replied numbly, "Our relationship doesn't need your definition or validation. Now either state your reason for being here or leave." Hearing Olo's ultimatum, Fisher shot back, "What good would telling you do? Do you even have what it takes to get revenge for 77? He slowly got to his feet and answered without hesitation, "I don't believe 77's death was a sacrifice." That concise answer surprised him. "What?" Olo's face darkened. Wiping the photo in his hand, he explained, 77 had a one-time use item. It could have let her escape the void instantly. Fisher was stunned. She didn't use it? A profound look entered Olo's eyes. Did she not use it, or was she unable to use it? You know better than I do about that kind of special easy escape item. There are no strict conditions for its use. He walked past the motionless Fisher and offered his theory. Someone stopped her from using it. With 77's personality, as long as all her comrades weren't dead, she would never have abandoned them to escape alone. As Olo hung up the photo of Little Seven, Fisher's voice cut in, firm with conviction. There is absolutely no way there was a traitor on her team. I would bet my life on that. Olo's profound expression didn't change as he asked, "What if someone else used that special item?" Hearing the vague clue, Fisher started to understand. "You're saying," Olo explained, "once someone enters a void, it immediately goes into a temporary lockdown. If someone uses a special item to force their way in, the void's boss has its power doubled." Fisher's brow furrowed. So a boss that was manageable at first and would become impossible to defeat. Seeing that he understood the key point, Olo added, "The 17's planet is a top secret. Do you believe there was an inside mole, or that the enemy is simply all-powerful?" Hearing this, Olo's words left him speechless. Let's assume there was no mole, and the enemy didn't force an entry. What if instead they used a special type of lockdown tool that prevented 77 and her team from leaving the void normally? That hypothesis made Barker look utterly shocked. According to his theory, the sequence of events would be simulated. The special lockdown tool would cause the void to be sealed and shift into a primordial closed state. Within 3 minutes, all the oxygen inside would be gone. Even if they destroyed the void's core, they couldn't escape. The only way to survive is to use a forced escape tool. Olo stepped closer, cornering him. So why didn't 77 leave or give the tool to a teammate? Let whoever can live, live. I don't believe that you all never considered this possibility. Backed against the wall, Fisher stammered with a panicked expression. But those special tools are extremely rare. Olo's questioning gaze remained unwavering. So what if they're extremely rare? If it can be traded for the life of a member of 17, then any price is worth it. Under the immense pressure, he slumped to the floor, his eyes filled with sorrow as he spoke. Recounting that day, he said, "I was supposed to go with 77, but then we received an urgent distress signal. The caller was the son of a high-ranking association official. There was nothing special about him, but he recklessly entered an A-rank void dungeon. We investigated afterward and found that aside from abusing their power, he and his father had no other issues. We also considered the possibility that 77 had been set up by someone, but there was no evidence. No matter how much we investigated, we couldn't find anything." Fisher then looked up at him and asked, "So what about you? How are you so sure about 7? That she wasn't sacrificed in battle?" Olo replied, his voice heavy with emotion. 77 promised me she would come home. She has never broken a promise. I trust her." That answer left him speechless. Fisher slowly stood up and said, "I understand now why 77 valued you so much." He picked up the sword, which was wrapped in a layer of white cloth. Fisher grabbed the hilt with one hand and pulled off the wrapping with the other, revealing a magnificent red sword. He held the sword reverently with both hands and presented it to Olo. "This is 77's sword. She had 2 she regularly used. One was left in the void dungeon. I'm giving this one to you." "No, I'm returning it to you." He took the sword with both hands, his eyes filled with sorrow, and said, "Thank you." Fisher, with a somber expression, said, "What I can do is only this." Olo looked at him and asked, "Did the others agree to you bringing this out?" Fisher replied with a nonchalant expression. Do I need their permission to return 77's memento to her family? Suddenly, he held out a black card in front of Olo. Taking the card, he wondered, What's this? Fisher spoke up. I'm not asking what you're planning to do, but if you want to investigate the truth behind 77's death, with your current strength, I'm afraid you won't even be able to get your foot in the door, and don't think you actually beat me. I wasn't even trying, Olo replied, his face expressionless. I know, he thought to himself. If he really went all out, he could probably beat me in a single move. He crossed his arms arrogantly and said, It's good that you know. Right now, our combat resources have been severely cut. 77 is no longer here. I have to look after you in her place. Olo thought to himself, I was just looking for a way to practice my swordsmanship. I can't believe it. A black card with striking gold letters. Master of the Unbreakable Sword Style, Zhao. Unbreakable. Contact information. He stared at the card, thinking, Fisher really did me a huge favor. Fisher picked up the hat that was lying on the ground. Oh, right, a replacement for 77 has already been chosen. Hearing this, Olo's voice went cold as he asked, Who? At a coffee shop, Kan-on rushed over to the table where Olo was sitting. Sorry, big bro, I ran into some psycho on the way here, that's why I'm late. He wasn't upset at all. It's fine, I just got here myself. You're not hurt, are you? He quickly replied, I'm fine, today was my lucky day. Olo, a little surprised, asked again, What happened? Kan-on slowly began to explain. There was a man with a knife who went crazy and started slashing people on Thanshuyen Street. Luckily, no one was killed, but I heard that before that. He intentionally ran over and killed a pedestrian on Thiente Street, then ran to Thanshuyen Street with the knife. Seeing how calm he looked, he was very surprised. Big bro, why don't you look surprised at all? Olo picked up his coffee cup, took a sip, and added, As long as the void dungeons don't disappear, we'll see more and more crazy people like him. Kan-on sighed in agreement. You're right. Whether it's investigators or normal people, most of them are under a huge amount of pressure. He quickly changed the subject. Anyway, let's not talk about such depressing stuff, big bro. So why'd you call me here today? He began to ask for a favor. Yeah, there's something I need your help with. I want to get a set of controllable throwing knives. I also want a suitable set of gear. Can you get it? Kan-on thought for a moment. The gear is easy enough. You can buy it at the Daidong Commerce Guild, but you need some connections to get the good stuff. As for the controllable throwing knives, that's a bit tricky. I'll have to ask around. Olo showed his sincere gratitude. Thanks a lot. He replied casually. Don't mention it. Actually, big bro, there's something I wanted to discuss with you. I want to establish a guild. He asked, Is the merchandise hard to sell? Kan-on shook his head. It's easy to sell, but it's a hassle and attracts a lot of attention. Olo agreed. That's true. But if you want to form a guild, you need at least 3 people. Have you found enough yet? Hearing this, he immediately confirmed, Big bro, you don't want to join? Olo declined. I don't want to attract any attention. Kan-on said cheerfully and enthusiastically, Don't worry, I'll take care of everything. Big bro, you can just be a silent partner. Seeing how insistent he was, he couldn't bring himself to refuse anymore. Why did you suddenly... Olo's attention was drawn to something. On the TV, a group of people was being shown. Kan-on was surprised. Hey, didn't second brother just go to the far south the other day? How did he get back so quickly? A girl who looked exactly like Little Seven was walking beside Fisher. He watched in silence. In the background, 2 people were chatting. It's been a while since we've seen all 7 stars together. I told you those people were just making up rumors. 77 is the radiant light. She'd be the last of us to die. But with all 7 stars gathering, does this mean something big is happening? Olo's expression grew serious as he recalled the other day. Fisher had warned him, I can't tell you who is playing the part of 77. I can only say that person is the most pitiful and innocent pawn in this entire game. As he was about to leave, he stopped for a moment to add a warning. Also, I'm not going to pressure you with some for the greater good speech, but this situation is huge. No one can change what's happening, not even us 7 stars. I'm heading back to the capital for a few days now. Fisher stopped mid-sentence, then changed the subject. Anyway, you'll find out when you watch TV. If you can't accept it, then get stronger. Strong enough to stand shoulder to shoulder with the 7 stars. He continued silently in his mind. And then you'll experience an even greater, more helpless pain. Back in the present, Kan-an tried to defuse the situation. Big bro, don't let it get to you. Even if the rumors are absurd, a lot of people won't bother to think twice about them. Olo's face remained calm as he smiled as if nothing was wrong. I'm not angry. Seeing this, he could only remain silent. He then asked about his training. So, how has your practice been going lately? Kan-an hesitated for a moment, then replied, Huh? Why are you suddenly bringing this up? He's been a bit busy lately, so seeing him like this, Olo decided to just drop it. Don't be so tense. I won't force you, and I won't ask anymore. Olo stood up to say goodbye. I have to go away for a while starting tomorrow. I'll contact you when I get back. I'll be going now. Seeing him like that, Kan-an seemed worried and didn't know what to do as he watched Olo's figure walk away. He concluded, so he really is still angry after all? Kan-an let out a long sigh. He understood. Well, he has every right to be. If someone kept making up stories every day that my big bro was dead, I'd be mad enough to lose my mind too. At the indestructible sword arts training hall, the two men were chatting as they watched Olo practicing his sword swings. One of them, wiping away his sweat, said, Weren't you curious before about why Instructor Ditch High is personally guiding him? I've already looked into it. The other man was also curious. So which family is he connected to? He replied, Not sure, but the hall master himself brought him here. The sound of their back-and-forth conversation continued. Is he that good? But he's been here for less than half a month, and all he does is practice basic sword swings. That's right. He practices 20,000 sword swings every single day. After he's done, he goes for a run or does other physical exercises. Huh? Then what's the point of using connections to get in here? He could do that stuff anywhere. Instructor Dick walked over to Olo's position. Are you finished with your training? He answered, Yes. It's been a while, Instructor Dick. The instructor praised him. Not bad. You look a lot more toned than before. Instructor Dick sized him up. You've been here for 14 days now. All I've had you do is practice sword swings. Don't you think I'm deliberately torturing you? Olo calmly wiped his sweat and said, No. You've already explained it, sir. Since I'm older and have a weak foundation, if I want to learn swordsmanship, I must thoroughly drill the basics. The instructor seemed a bit surprised by this answer. Instructor Dick laughed. Holding a grudge, are we? He explained, I'm just repeating what you told me, sir. He got straight to the point. All right, then. Stop trying to fool me. I came here today to ask you, will you continue with basic training, or will you officially start learning swordsmanship? Olo was surprised. But, sir, you said I had to practice sword swings, and for at least a month. Instructor Ditch patted his shoulder and explained, Before, I thought you were just some rich kid who wanted to learn swordsmanship to show off. He smiled brightly and added, Once you've thought it through, come find me in my office. Before he could even finish, Olo had already agreed. Yes, sir! Olo clasped his hands together. From now on, I'll be counting on your guidance, Instructor Ditch. His expression turned serious as he observed him more closely. Then, Instructor Ditch turned away. For me, the highest realm of swordsmanship can be summed up in a single word. He picked up a sword. Instructor Dick threw it swiftly, right past Olo's side. It was so fast he couldn't even react. Hearing the sound of the sword embedding itself in the wall, Olo exclaimed, So fast! The instructor's face still held a slight smile as he began to explain, And that is speed. As long as you are fast enough, even if you only know one move, you can still advance with confidence. Then, Instructor Ditch beckoned with his finger, signaling it was Olo's turn to practice. You give it a try. Remember to use the fastest speed you possibly can. Olo picked up a sword, preparing to follow his instructions. As he began to move, he silently calculated, Looking at Ditch High's physique, it's easy to think he's a power type. I judged him by his appearance, too. The sword thrown by Olo flew towards him. Instructor Ditch easily caught it. I told you, you're the type to hold a grudge, you kid, and you still won't admit it. He tossed the sword aside and said, Tell me your thoughts. He immediately offered his assessment. Not enough power. He then continued to think. The foundation to maintain speed is strength. A sword isn't like a throwing knife. It's inherently unsuitable for a thrown attack. But Instructor Dick, on the other hand, was satisfied and laughed heartily. Not bad. I'd say you've reached the gateway. Do you know what the next step should be? Olo replied, I have a rough idea. Curious about his answer, Instructor Dick prompted him. Let's hear it. A system notification appeared. Life, 2,974. Attack, 1,301. Magic,
290. Defense, 2,413. Agility, 349.
Looking at this information panel, he knew what he needed to adjust. It seems I not only have to learn more sword techniques, but I also need to shift some of my strength training to speed training. The instructor probed, "So you plan to take the path of using dexterity to overcome strength?" Olo walked over to the sword from before. "I don't need to be just fast. I need to be solid. So I want to balance things out a bit." Instructor Ditch was even more satisfied. "Not arrogant, not impatient. Your mindset is quite good. But why do I get the feeling you're trying to trick me, kid?" He didn't expect the instructor to be so perceptive. "Is it a martial artist's intuition, or—" Instructor Dick began to explain. "These days, too many people go down the wrong path. I quite like you, kid, so I hope you understand clearly what you've chosen and what you're doing." Olo replied, "Thank you, Instructor Ditch." He waved his hand and started to leave. "If you want to thank me, do something more practical. Treat me to a meal next time. I have some business to take care of, so I'll be going now." Then Teacher Ditch turned back to give Ulu some final advice. "There might be a young master from a rich family who will come looking for you to cause trouble. If you find it annoying, you can hide for a few days. Wait until he's dead, then you can come back." Ulu was completely baffled by this advice, a look of sheer disbelief on his face. In a C-rank void, the tip of someone's sword slashed across the monster's neck, sending blood flying everywhere. Then, the system notification popped up. "You have received 1 red gold trifin wing and 1 piece of mutated meat. 1 scorpion tail, 1 note." After reading it, Ulu immediately spoke up. "This is the first time I've seen a note for meat that says extremely poisonous, can be eaten but will result in death." Then his face darkened and he said nothing more. Another piece of information appeared. When the sword tip pierced the red object, the void core was destroyed. Ulu wore a very serious expression as he thought. Before, the dialogue box only had notes for rare materials or skills. Why is there a note for this decomposed meat this time? A monster's corpse not being allowed to be taken outside doesn't mean it can't be used inside the void. In the early days, when the voids first descended, humans lacked experience, cognitive skills, and equipment, making conquests extremely difficult. When supplies were scarce, it often happened that people were forced to eat monster meat to survive. Many investigators in the early stages were poisoned and died from eating monster meat. Walking slowly, Ulu continued to ponder the matter of the poisonous monster meat. That's already common knowledge for investigators, so why did the dialogue box still give a special reminder? Was it because it thought I'd eat it out of ignorance, or has my skill leveled up? The scene changes to a phone screen with 2 words, "Brother Tan," ringing. Ulu, who was drying his hair with a towel, was drawn by the sound. He put the phone to his ear and said, "Brother Tan." After that, the two exchanged a few words. "Ulu, are you free today?" "I am. What's up?" "There's something I need your help with." After a moment, Ulu scratched his head and replied, "It's no problem. Your sister-in-law's health is more important. Don't worry, just take her to the hospital for a checkup. I'll take your place on the Void mission tomorrow." After he finished speaking, he looked at the phone screen in front of him in silence. On it was a picture of Xiao Qi, smiling as bright as a flower. In another scene, near a blue rift, Brother An placed a hand on his hip. "You're the one taking Tantri's shift, right? What's your name?" The man with the large backpack immediately replied, "Ulu." The other man quickly followed up. "You look like a little chick, but your physique isn't bad." He put his hand on Ulu's shoulder and smiled. "I hear this is your first time in a D-rank void. You know all the rules, right? Once we're inside, just stick close to me. Observe a lot, learn a lot, and talk less." After hearing this, Ulu simply agreed. "Okay." After that, Brother An looked at his watch and announced, "It's time." In the middle of the void space, that voice rang out once more. "Time to get to work." A moment later, a group of people in blue protective gear looked horrified. One of them stared at the ruined landscape ahead and exclaimed, "This is the first time I've seen a void like this." Brother An, his face covered in sweat, warned, "Everyone pay attention. If you fall, no one will be able to save you." Standing right beside him, Ulu glanced over and thought, "A hybrid-type void is a bit troublesome. I hope nothing goes wrong. A D-rank void or higher will randomly appear, as various types of voids with a combination of 2 or more styles. Usually, when the worldview extends beyond the world where the void exists, there will be trouble." His train of thought continued. "There are only robot monsters. It seems this void hasn't completely merged yet." Seeing some movement up ahead, Brother An quickly pointed forward. That must be the boss up ahead. All right, don't be tense. Everyone go search the area for any resources. Just then, the man with the two-toned hair scratched his head. Brother An, there are no resources. He continued without changing his posture. This void isn't big. I checked on the way in. Besides the robot monsters, there are only buildings and spaceships, and we can't take any of that with us. As soon as he finished, Brother An couldn't hold back his anger. Then go dismantle the spaceship. Did you two come here to have fun? Do you still want your salary or not? Ao Lu, with his hands in his pockets, added, the spaceships are probably just empty shells. At that moment, a man poked his head out from inside one and called out, Brother An, this ship is just an outer shell. It's completely empty inside. Hearing this, Brother An immediately turned his head and asked Ulu, how did you know? After Ulu smiled and replied, I saw it online. His mind was filled with thoughts. In an unmerged void, besides the boss location, 99% of the other areas have no resources. Brother An put a hand on the back of his head and said, all right, fine. This place is really weird. It's best if we leave early. There are no more sounds from inside, so they must be done fighting. Let's head over. Meanwhile, further inside, the scene was one of complete desolation. Tran Mak had a pained expression on his face. This piece of junk robot is so hard to fight. Is this really the guardian boss of a D-rank void? Just as he said that, the armored man, with both hands on the hilt of his sword, sighed, I guess so. Something caught his attention, and it was as if he'd found his saviors. You guys came at the perfect time! Hurry up and gather the resources around here! An didn't hesitate to reply. Got it. Then, with an unreadable expression, Tran Mak ordered, Lao Ba, shatter the core. We have to get out of here now. Hearing this, the other person quickly agreed. Elsewhere, Olo furrowed his brow. With so many people, it would be difficult to take everything without arousing suspicion. But this kind of boss is extremely rare. Suddenly, a long spear pierced Lao 3 from behind. The sight left everyone completely horrified. He couldn't believe his eyes. When he looked back and saw it was Jia Min, he gritted his teeth. Why? Over there. An armored man and Tran Mak couldn't help but shout one after another, Lao Ba! Jia Min, what are you doing? He was your comrade. He even saved you before. But Jia Min just replied coldly, I know. To repay that debt, I'm giving him a quick and clean death. Hearing this, Tran Mak flew towards him with his spear raised, demanding, Who in the world are you? Jia Min easily dodged the fatal blow. Then he retaliated with a sharp slash of his sword, killing his opponent on the spot. Fresh blood dripped onto the floor. Jia Min then removed his mask and smirked. Who am I? My real name isn't worth mentioning, but you can all call me number 19. Instantly, the armored man gripped his blade, gritting his teeth as he asked, Number 19, you're one of the Abyss? As he finished speaking, his opponent looked slightly pleased. So you're not completely ignorant. But An spread his arms wide. Wait, I'll find a way to stall him. You guys focus on breaking the core and get out of here quickly. Hearing this, someone behind him sounded hesitant. But, An... He replied in a stern voice, There's no other way. And another thing, you have to get Olo out of here safely. Before coming here, Tantri told me to take good care of him. If he dies, how could I ever face him again? Hearing this, Olo was silent for a long moment. He then immediately asked, Then what about you? As the words left his lips, An turned back, sweat trickling down his cheek. I'm your big brother. It's my duty to take good care of you all. Suddenly, number 19 seemed to remember something. I almost forgot about you insignificant little insects. Hearing this, An raised the sharp axe in his hand. Seize the right moment. You must get out of here alive. Then he charged forward. I'll take you on! But number 19 was completely calm. A little insect with some backbone, I see. His face was utterly bloodthirsty, his eyes glowing. How disgusting! With that, he powerfully swung his sword down. The sharp blade was just inches from An's face when it was instantly parried by the tip of another sword. It turned out the newcomer was Olo. Seeing this, number 19 licked his lips excitedly. Oh? So there's another insect that knows how to bite. Olo stood protectively in front of An in a defensive stance. An, take everyone and run. With a panicked expression, he replied, Okay. Just then, number 19 looked over at him, casually stretching while holding his sword, and said, Are you done with your last words? I'm truly a kind-hearted villain. See? Not only did I not sneak attack you during your final goodbyes, but I even kindly asked if you were finished. Without a hint of panic, Olo looked straight at him and asked, "You're from the Abyss?" Number 19 replied, "That's right. Weren't you listening earlier?" His answer made him fall silent. Olo thought to himself, "Something's not right." In his mind, he pictured the members of the Abyss thinking, the Abyss is a notoriously wicked organization. Its members are either depraved or just plain evil. The Abyss mainly deals in human trafficking with a side business of working as hired assassins. Olo's eyes narrowed in concentration as he thought. But before Tubei said, his train of thought was cut short by a brutal slash from number 19, who noticed Olo was fighting him without a single change in expression. He then spoke up, "Hey, you're taking this bullying too far. Even though I'm a model villain who doesn't resort to sneak attacks, you can't just ignore me like this." After hearing number 19 speak, he still ignored him and remained silent. Seeing Olo act this way made him even more excited, and he smirked. "This insect truly doesn't know what's good for it." And Anne's group stood to one side, watching the fight between him and number 19 in astonishment. "Wow, this newcomer is really something." Another person expressed their surprise and wondered aloud, why would someone so powerful be working in logistics? With a worried expression, Anne gritted his teeth and snapped, "Stop talking nonsense and focus. Find a chance to break the Void's core. We can't just rely on the new guy." At that same moment, Olo was knocked back a great distance. Seizing the opportunity while he was at a disadvantage, number 19 lunged forward to attack. With great agility, Olo leaned back and flipped away. He beautifully dodged the sword. While defending, he also seized the chance to land a surprise kick on his opponent right after. Olo retreated without a scratch, not wasting a single second to rest. He lunged forward to attack again. Seeing Olo's superior performance, number 19 looked even more surprised and interested. "This insect is stronger than I thought. How interesting." And with that, he let out a devilish laugh. He stopped his attack and, with a powerful look in his eyes, said, "As a model villain, you must know this saying. Villains die because they talk too much." Hearing Olo's words, he gave an enigmatic smile. Number 19, filled with ferocity and rage, lunged at him. "You really don't know your place. Insects should just obediently crawl on the ground." His sword was blocked by him. Over on Anand's side, they had dug their way to a red gem. One of them, his face clearly relaxed, said, "This is great. We can finally get out of here." At that moment, seeing this, number 19 immediately rushed toward Anne. When Anne saw him coming, he pushed the other person aside with a serious expression. "You fool, run!" Number 19's gaze flickered and locked onto Olo, who was charging right behind him. His flawless surprise attack was, however, effortlessly dodged by Olo. Suddenly, his eyes flew open, his face darkening with a mix of surprise and panic as Olo leaped high into the air, bringing his leg down in a powerful attack on number 19. The unexpected attack caught him off guard, sending him flying back 2 meters. Seizing the chance, Olo used his sword to slash at the gem, shattering it into tiny pieces. His face was tense as he urged everyone, "Quickly!" But before Olo could finish, he was cut off by a shout. It was Anne, his face dark with worry, interrupting, "Run!" Just then, Olo glanced behind him and saw number 19 standing right there with a sinister expression. "Why do you all love to pop the champagne before the party's over?" Caught completely off guard, he was run through by a sword. The pain made him grit his teeth, his face darkening. But surprisingly, Olo's hand moved without a moment's hesitation. He grabbed tightly onto the blade of number 19's sword, causing the man to stare wide-eyed in shock and stammer, You... Olo clenched his jaw, enduring the pain, and spoke. A clumsy imitator doesn't deserve to drink champagne at a victory party. Immediately, Olo turned the sword's point, redirecting it to stab straight at number 19. Olo's eyes widened, his pupils constricting in surprise as number 19's face darkened into a demonic smile. "Little insect, do you know what happened to the last person who dared to speak to me like that?" Right after that, number 19 vanished, leaving only a puff of purple smoke around Olo's blade. An urgent shout rang out, "Newbie, run!" Anne had been decisively run through with a sword. He stood beside Anne and said mockingly, "You're lucky. It didn't hit a vital spot." Number 19 released Anne, letting him fall to the ground. He gave a soft laugh and said gently, "I did that on purpose." Olo's face darkened in utter shock as he exclaimed, "A person with a special type ability?" A stream of knowledge flooded his mind. Currently, the abilities of investigators are divided into 8 main types: attack, enhancement, magic, defense, control, support, and special. Each main type has many different sub-branches. My physical enhancement skill belongs to the enhancement type. The special type is the most complex. It can't be judged or assessed by common standards. Olo, his face somewhat pale from the wound, maintained a defensive stance, thinking to himself, special type. Illusionary clones can control a maximum of 3 clones. Each clone has a maximum strength of 2/3 of the original body. Even if he can only control 1 clone, my chances of winning are 10% at most. Hearing him, number 19 replied, "You've done your homework." He raised his sword, pointing towards another clone that was carrying their teammates over, and said, "And now, for the most thrilling part." Number 19 pointed his sword at Olo's teammates and asked, "Choose. Will you die or will they?" One person, despite the imminent danger, desperately urged him, "Run, just run away." Others looked terrified, wailing continuously, "I don't want to die, please save me." "I don't want to die either. For Anne's sake, please save us." Olo's face remained expressionless. He remained silent, showing no emotion. Number 19 smiled demonically and laid out his terms. "I'll give you 1 minute to think. If your answer is silence or if you abandon them, they all die." Just then, Olo glanced intently toward the spatial door. Suddenly, an arm draped over his shoulder. "Don't even think about pulling any tricks." Number 19 was standing right behind him. He whispered in Olo's ear, "I'll be watching you." Looking at his teammates, Olo thought, "I still haven't figured out the cause of 77's death. I still have so much to do. I can't die here." A man in a hooded coat announced, "You have 30 seconds left." Anne, lying on the ground, breathed out wearily and stammered, "Just leave them." Hearing this, number 19 immediately raised his sword mockingly. "You talk too much." He coldly swung down at Anne, but instead struck the man with the parted hair who had thrown himself on top of him. It was a horrifying sight. This made 2 men in blue coats cry out in horror, "Lao-san!" Meanwhile, number 19 gritted his teeth and raised his sword high again. "The sound of these insects is so annoying!" Suddenly, Olo yelled, "Stop!" His hands gripped the hilt of his sword tightly, listening to number 19's words. "I don't want to hear anything else that isn't your answer." Olo looked tense and said in a low voice, "Let them go. I'll stay." Hearing this, number 19 reminded him in an icy tone, "You people really enjoy treating my warnings like empty threats, don't you?" But Olo showed no fear. "What's wrong? Don't you dare? Or are you worried I'll trick you so you'll only accept my suicide as the outcome?" In response, number 19 pointed his sword forward. His lips curled into a smirk. "You arrogant insect. Giving you a choice was my mercy. Don't you dare think you can escape from me." At this, Olo also raised the sword in his hand, his brow furrowed tightly. "I'm only a little over 10 meters from that escape portal. You can try and see if you can actually keep me here." With a hand on his hip, number 19 continued speaking. "Look, everyone, the person you all risked your lives to save, in the end, he still values his own life more." Then, a sarcastic voice rang out, "How pathetic. Copycat." Olo glanced to the side. "If you really wanted to kill them, there's nothing I could have done to save them. Likewise, if I want to escape, there's absolutely no way you can stop me." His expression unchanging, he said, "You only gave us a choice because you wanted to watch us turn on each other. From the very beginning, you never intended to let any of us go." Looking at the man before him, he added, "Compared to him, you're still a far cry." At this, number 19 couldn't contain his anger and screamed, "I will definitely kill you! Get lost!" Olo quickly urged everyone to hurry. He watched as 4 heavily injured people slowly walked towards the cave entrance. One of them, extremely worried, whispered, "You have to survive." Meanwhile, number 19, without hesitation, rushed forward with his sword, a cruel look on his face. "Come here, you insect. I want to see which is tougher. Or your body." His eyes glowing, he closed in on Olo and swung his sword. But Olo easily dodged, and with a single slash cut number 19's weapon clean in 2. However, he quickly moved behind him. Olo immediately jumped back a few steps, but number 19 followed up with a kick to his stomach. The attack sent Olo flying into the wall. His eyes narrowed slightly, and his mouth fell open, his teeth bared in a grimace. Olo quickly scrambled away to dodge number 19's next move, but his opponent was a step ahead, appearing right in front of Olo. He planted his hands on the ground and kicked his legs up to block the blow. Just then, number 19 flew behind him again, and so Olo had to use all his strength to fight him off. Seeing this, number 19 sneered, "Is that all you've got, you little insect?
With that, he instantly vanished from in front of Olo, only to reappear behind him, preparing the finishing blow. "I'm done playing with you." Number 19 didn't say another word, slashing Olo in the back. The blade pierced through him, and blood gushed from his mouth. Finally, number 19 kicked away his opponent's limp body. Blood dripped continuously onto the ground beneath him. Olo tried to force himself up, his body shaking in spasms, before he collapsed again. Seeing this, number 19 let out a wicked smile and snapped his fingers. "It's been a long time since anyone dared to make me this angry. I'm going to punish you severely." A hand grabbed Olo by the back of his collar and started dragging him. His body was thrown to the ground once more. Number 19 looked at the trembling man and spoke, his voice dripping with sarcasm. "Out of the kindness of my heart, I'll give you one more chance. If you can manage to crawl to the exit, I'll let you go." Meanwhile, Olo trembled uncontrollably, his mind fixated on one thing: survive and get out. He pictured Xiao 7, smiling and calling his name, "Big brother!" As the thought of Xiao 7 continued, a foot suddenly stomped down on his wound. Number 19 laughed, satisfied. "And here I thought you weren't afraid of death." He ground his foot into the wound as he spoke. "Hurry up and crawl. You're almost at the gate." Yet Olo kept trying, his hand reaching out. Survive. Survive. His left hand nearly touched the finish line. Survive. Seeing this, number 19 continued his mockery. How pathetic. "Excuse me, could you move?" At that moment, he turned his head and saw Xiao Xiao, her head lowered, hands tucked into her hoodie pockets. "Excuse me, could you please move? I should be getting home." The words had barely left her mouth when number 19 scoffed. "Well, well, another little insect." But she replied with perfect calm, "I'm not an insect. Can you please move?" After hearing the challenge in her tone, "Move for you? Sure. Kill me, and I'll move." The little girl asked, "So I just have to kill you?" Number 19 replied confidently, "That's right. Kill me, and you can leave this place." And so Xiao Xiao said nothing. She let out a sigh, a jade-green light flashing in her eyes. What a creep. And then, with a single slash, she cut through number 19's neck as he was still grinning in delight. His head instantly flew from his shoulders. Olo watched, his face a mask of pure terror. Xiao Xiao simply crouched down. With her childish face and gentle voice, she asked, "Excuse me. Did I really have to kill you just to be able to leave? Be able?" "Kid." Olo looked down at Xiao Xiao. "I'm not going to stop you." He stared at the girl as she gazed nonchalantly at the ground. Suddenly, Xiao Xiao asked the corpse, "So why didn't you move?" Olo felt awkward. "Hey, kid?" She just grunted. "Hmm?" Olo slowly got to his feet. "It's nothing. Anyway, thanks for saving me." Xiao Xiao looked puzzled. "But I didn't save you." He ignored her remark and asked another question. "Can you tell me your name?" Xiao Xiao's eyes lit up as she introduced herself. "I'm Xiao Xiao. Can you buy me some meat?" "Everyone who asks for my name buys me meat." Olo didn't refuse the girl and immediately agreed. "Okay, but before I treat you, I have to go home first." Xiao Xiao kept insisting. "Meat." Olo sighed in resignation. "All right." Later, at a steakhouse, Xiao Xiao was devouring her food like her life depended on it. She polished off 10 plates, every single one scraped clean. Watching how happy she was, Olo could only give a wry smile. He called for the waitress. A server came to their table and said, "Sir, I'm sorry, but we're out of stock. We have no more steak." Olo asked her, "Do you have any other kind of meat? If you do, I don't care what it is. Give me 50 servings. She immediately replied, "Okay." Just like that, another plate of meat was set down in front of Xiao Xiao. She stared at it with hungry eyes and, without hesitation, devoured several more plates. Suddenly, Olo coughed up a mouthful of blood. Seeing this, Xiao Xiao stated flatly, "You're going to die soon. Why didn't you get your wounds treated?" Olo thought to himself, "It's because you were following me around, giving me that look that just screamed you wanted meat." He then recalled, "After I took in Xiao 7, she used to look at me the exact same way. The only difference was, Xiao 7 never dared to ask." Seeing the girl eat as if she'd been starved for ages, Olo gently passed her a napkin. "Wipe your mouth first. Don't rush. Eat slowly. You can eat as much as you want. It's rare to meet someone so kind." Suddenly, a tall man approached and put his hand on Xiao Xiao's head. "It's been a while. We thought you'd been tricked and led away again." He continued,
But then again, if getting tricked means you get to eat this well, maybe it's not so bad. Olo asked, puzzled. Excuse me, who are you? He then introduced himself. Oh, my name is Ouyang Shi, from Kwangge. Ulu thought to himself, Kwangge, a civilian investigation organization. That's pretty weird, isn't it? He said to him, Brother Ouyang, have you eaten yet? If not, and you don't mind, please join us. Ouyang Shi's face suddenly lit up. Really? In that case, I won't be shy. He grabbed a huge piece of meat from the plate. Seeing this, Xiao Xiao said, Hey, you want my meat? Ouyang Shi gave a sheepish smile. Let's share. If it's not enough, this kind man here will buy more. The two of them looked at Ulu with adorable eyes, making him feel so awkward that he reluctantly agreed. That's right. You two go ahead and eat. Ulu said to the server, Hey, another 10 orders of meat over here, please. He thought to himself, Good thing I have money. And just like that, plate after plate was wiped clean. Ouyang Shi and Xiao Xiao sat there, clutching their full bellies and letting out a sigh. It's been so long since I've eaten this well. Xiao Xiao nodded in agreement. Ouyang Shi turned to him and asked, So what should we call our kind benefactor? Olu thought to himself, Does everyone in this organization eat this much? He told him his name. Olu. Ouyang Shi's eyes widened as he stared at him. Ulu. So it's you. Ulu was confused. You know me? Ouyang Shi replied, I've heard that Zhao Guang's older brother is very famous where we're from. Ulu asked, You two know Xiao Qi? He answered him, Of course we do. She used to be on TV all the time. Who in the entire Xia kingdom doesn't know her? Ulu looked at him and thought, Before, he must have noticed Xiao Xiao had fallen asleep. Ouyang Shi said, It's getting late. We should be heading back. He scooped the little girl up into his arms and winked at Ulu. As thanks for treating Xiao Xiao to meat, you should come with us. Ulu declined his invitation. No need, I should be getting home too. Ouyang Shi gave him a quizzical look. My kind friend, it's good to be cautious, but being too cautious will only turn you into a lone wolf. Ulu frowned at him. And with that, Ouyang Shi left, carrying Xiao Xiao. As he walked, his voice echoed back, We don't care about, nor do we want to pry into your little secrets. Whether you come or not is up to you. Later, at a place that looked like a construction site, Ouyang Shi led Ulu inside. He introduced the place to him. Welcome to the Kwangge base. A girl was sleeping with a book over her face. Suddenly she shot up, her eyes gleaming. Meat! Ouyang Shi tossed a bag of meat into the air. The pink-haired girl quickly snatched it. Ouyang Shi asked her, Xia Shui, are you the only one here today? Xiahik said as she opened the bag. Yeah, I'm on house duty. They went to work. Someone already went to look for Xiao Xiao. Opening the bag, she revealed a whole chicken inside. Sheshuk's mouth was already watering. She looked up at him, puzzled. Ah, Shi, did you strike it rich? Ouyang Shi glanced at Olu next to him. This is a gift for everyone from this kind man. He was too embarrassed to come empty-handed. Sheshu asked, Have I met you somewhere before? Ouyang Shi chimed in, He might be an acquaintance of yours. Suddenly, she dashed towards Ulu. Witnessing this, Ulu thought to himself, So fast. Xiaoshui felt Ulu's face. But I've never met him before. Ouyang Shi, still carrying Xiao Xiao on his back, told her, But you've met his younger sister. A hard-to-read expression appeared on his face. Ouyang Shi said, His younger sister is the genius who stole your position. Zhao Guang 77. Xiaoshui's eyes went wide, her index finger lightly touching her left cheek. 77. So you're her older brother. Hearing this, Ulu's expression turned serious. So you know me too. Xiaoshui remained incredibly calm. Of course, you're very famous. You didn't know? At that, Ulu's face grew even more tense. Famous for what? Zhao Guang 77's freeloader? Her bookworm? Or the good-for-nothing? Before the words were even finished, the other person quickly answered, Zhao Guang's reverse scale. Xia Shui turned her head away, refusing to look at the person before her. Among the 7 stars, Zhao Guang is the most benevolent and soft-hearted. Often, even when people humiliate her in public, she doesn't get angry. Because of that, outsiders see her as weak and easy to bully. As she thought of the ice-cold-looking girl, she continued, But one time, someone used you to insult her. Before that person could even finish their sentence, they were killed by Zhao Guang. At that moment, from the side, Ouyang Shi suddenly spoke up. She didn't even say anything, but from that day on, everyone knew that you are Zhao Guang's reverse scale. After hearing this, a sad look appeared in Ulu's eyes. 7-7. But Xia Shui didn't stop talking. Ashi, you brought him back to ask for my help, right? Why did you have to stir up trouble and sow discord like that? As soon as she finished, he slowly raised both hands, feigning innocence. What? That's unfair. I just wanted him to know that you and Zhao Guang have a little history, that's all. Besides, this kind friend of ours is pretty cute. Instantly, Xia Shui shot a glance to the side. I don't see it. I remember Zhao Guang saying her older brother was a very gentle and kind person, but you don't seem anything like what Zhao Guang described at all. Ouyang Shi slowly walked over to join the conversation. When I first met him, I thought Zhao Guang was seeing her brother through rose-colored glasses. He's so cautious and defensive, like a hedgehog always ready to attack others. At this, Ulu's eyebrows knitted together tightly as he snapped, Are you two finished talking? What kind of person am I? I don't need your judgment. That's enough. Ha Tuit lowered her head slightly, closed her eyes, and let out a faint smile. This isn't a judgment, but an affirmation of the truth. Out of respect for 7-7, I'll give you a piece of advice. You should think about why 7-7 is so strong. She stood opposite O Lo. A person whose heart is filled with only hatred can never reach their desired destination. But he was still determined to turn and walk away. Thank you for the advice. I'll be taking my leave now, Ha Tuit asked with great concern. Aren't you going to treat your wounds? Without hesitation, O Lo replied, I'll handle it myself. Thanks. A moment later, Doong Hai gently reminded her, Hey, you went a little too far. And Ha Tuit quickly questioned him. Why do you still want to tease him? However, Doong Hee immediately gave his reasoning. I just think he's too closed off, so I wanted to help him open up a little. Ha Tuit was bending down to pick up a bag of things. Hi, I just don't want to overthink things. It's not that I'm clueless. Her slender figure sat down on the chair. Ha Tuit used her hands to open the bag wide and sighed. Prices have been rising continuously these past few months. Tiu hasn't had a full meal in a long time. As soon as the words left her mouth, a dejected Doong Hee replied, From now on, I'll drive less. Ha Tuit immediately agreed. That's right. Compared to that bit of money, your mental health is much more important. Then Doong Hee waved his hand, changing the subject. When I saw he was injured and still eating with Tiu, I thought he was planning to take advantage of Tiu's abilities. So I used the meat to trick Tiu. He gently touched Tiu's head with one hand. Then I found out he was just inviting her to eat, and on top of that, he's Zhao Kuang's brother, so I brought him back. After he finished, Doong Hee's voice lowered slightly. Back then, among the many candidates, you were the most promising to become the Zhao Kuang. But before he could finish, Ha Tuyet cut in, I don't blame her. Hearing this, Doong Hai remembered the other's carefree image. I know you not only don't resent her, but you're also very fond of her. Otherwise, after what happened to Zhao Kuang, you wouldn't have been devastated for so long. That's why I wanted to bring him back. 1, to treat his injuries, and 2, so you could meet Zhao Kuang's relative. These words made Ha Tuyet lower her gaze and fall silent. Then she grumbled slightly, nosy. But Doong Hee just chuckled. Too bad everything's all messed up now. I just hope he can take your words to heart. And in the meantime, scene changed to the side of a street. O Lo, clutching his stomach with his hand, walked slowly forward. He saw 3 children standing noisily in front of a bakery. Which one do you want to eat? I want them all. We don't have that much money. The scene reminded O Lo of a young Tu Bei, along with someone's earlier words. Too bad everything's all messed up now. I just hope he can take your words to heart. When Tu Bei had a serious expression, clasping her 2 hands together. Brother, please wait for me a little longer. In the future, I'll definitely earn a lot of money. I'll make sure you can live a really good life. As soon as she finished, the young O Lo, his cheeks flushed red, smiled in satisfaction. All right, then I'm counting on you, Tu Bei. And without any hesitation, she replied, I'll become the best, so you can become the happiest. Ha Tuyet's words once again appeared in his mind, but he himself was nothing like what Zhao Kuang had said. O Lo's mind was in a daze. Some things had gotten all mixed up. He sat down on a stone bench in the park, his voice low. After what happened to Tu Bei, I only focused on investigating the truth. Because of that, I not only became stronger, a thought flashed through his mind. I've only been an investigator for a few years. The number of people I've met isn't large, but they left a deep impression. An image of O Lo holding a sword, slashing at something, scheming. Next was the scene of him being thrown to the ground, powerless. A conspiracy. Then, number 19's sinister smile gradually appeared, his lopsided stance. Betrayal. And all the people Olo had come into contact with. But there were also those who selflessly risked their lives to help him. And Anne was one of them. Anne was one of... Returning to reality, Olo looked up and sighed, his deep eyes full of worldly wisdom. An image of Tyubei, puffing her cheeks and pointing to the sky. Brother, your thoughts are too gloomy. Immediately, Olo was a little surprised and gave a forced smile. Why would you say my thoughts are gloomy? Hearing this, Tyubei immediately blushed. That's not quite right. Compared to gloomy, you're more pessimistic. Looking at him, she continued, Brother, you don't believe in human nature. Hearing this, Olo lowered his gaze slightly, his voice soft. Maybe so. Maybe it's because I've seen too much, that I unconsciously stopped trusting. He bent down to look at the person before him. You have knowledge that far surpasses mine. You must also understand better than anyone that human nature cannot withstand being tested. At that, Tyubei showed a worried expression. But no matter the environment, people are absolutely not all bad. Olo was very calm. That much I believe. Tyuseven's expression became extremely serious. Many different kinds of people have created the world we live in today, no matter the circumstances, and there are always people who carry courage in their hearts. I want to change this world. Therefore, no matter what I encounter, I will always persevere and never stop trying. Her voice seemed to strike a chord in Olo's heart. When there are more and more people like you, humanity will surely be victorious. We'll win back peace and stability. So please, be more resolute and courageous. Believe in the potential of humanity. As she finished speaking, Olo's gaze didn't waver in the slightest. His mouth gently replied, All right. He pressed his hands against his cheeks. I hate it when people scheme against each other. Then Olo, half asleep, looked at his phone screen. But now my first reaction to anyone is always suspicion and caution. On it was a picture of Xiaoqi, smiling happily and holding up 2 fingers. If I keep going like this, I'll definitely become the person I hate the most. In the empty space, Olo sat alone. Change the world, huh? He slowly stood up, lost in thought. Xiaoqi, I don't like a world without you. Olo slowly walked forward. I don't like being in this hopeless situation, where people only know how to scheme and betray each other. But I almost forgot your wish. His eyes sharpened, his brows furrowed as he thought to himself, Xiaoqi, I'll try to believe in people again. Olo and Jing-an entered the slum, which looked incredibly gloomy and dilapidated. The people around them looked anything but friendly. Their clothes were all tattered, and everyone had an air of apathy. A few people sat by the roadside, their faces dazed and dejected. Walking behind, Jing-an couldn't help but gape at the surroundings. Olo, walking ahead, suddenly stopped and turned to ask him, Are you surprised? Jing-an, still looking flustered, stammered, I thought... Before he could finish, Olo calmly cut in, You thought my place would be this bad? Hearing that, Jing-an suddenly felt guilty. I'm sorry. Olo frowned, confused. Why are you apologizing? It's not your fault. Jing-an, however, was still quite embarrassed. But before he could finish his sentence, a little boy suddenly ran up and accidentally bumped into Olo. He instinctively cried out, Ah! Olo reacted quickly, catching the boy and saying urgently, Be careful. The boy timidly whispered, Sorry. Olo, instead of getting angry, reminded him, Slow down or you'll fall. The boy had been observing the person in front of him. Sensing he was a good person, his eyes widened and his tone filled with excitement as he asked, Mister, you're really handsome. Are you from somewhere else? Olo smiled back at him and answered gently, That's right. The boy became even more curious, firing off questions. Is it pretty outside? Are there a lot of people like you? And is there lots of delicious food? Olo remained calm, a hint of bittersweet sadness in his expression. Ah. The boy kept looking up at him, saying incessantly, That's amazing! Mister, will I be as handsome as you guys when I grow up? Mom says I have to wait until I'm 15 years old to go outside. I really want to grow up fast. Hearing this, Olo curled his lips into a smile, ruffling the boy's hair as he answered gently, Of course! When you grow up, you'll be just like us. Just then, a voice called out from behind, An Ann, where are you? Recognizing the familiar voice, the boy immediately turned, not forgetting to say, "Mister, my mom's calling me." Olo looked at him affectionately and said kindly, "Yeah, you should go. Don't keep your mom waiting." And so, the boy ran towards his mother, waving goodbye to Olo. "Bye-bye, mister." As the boy's figure disappeared from view, his face returned to its cold expression. "Li Jing-an, this isn't your fault." A gloomy atmosphere enveloped the slum. Olo's voice continued, "Let's keep moving." A while later, they both arrived at a desolate place. In front of them was a rotten gate. Jing-an asked hesitantly, "This gate?" But Olo didn't give him time to think, quickly cutting in, "Look over there." Following his words, Jing-an looked inside. The sight that appeared made him shudder. Before them were dozens of people with only a single piece of cloth to cover their bodies, their faces utterly wretched from hunger and thirst. An old man standing inside seemed to notice the two of them. He stared at them with terrified eyes. Jing-an had to cry out in horror, "This is hell!" Jing-an, completely bewildered, asked, "Are they just locked in here? Is no one managing them?" Olo didn't answer him. Instead, his expression grew tense as he warned, "Step back a little.